Right?
The balls of Tall Sing Se. No, the Tales of Ba Sing Se was.
That is a totally different show.
It really is.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and I'm joined as always by Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Danae Hughes.
The plant mother.
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. You're a horrible plant mother. I don't know that you want to be a plant mom.
Well, I was just thinking, is that the fastest we've ever referenced the outtakes?
Probably not.
No, I thought you usually reference the outtakes.
Dang it! No, but that was instantly. That was instantly in the intro.
Like we just talked about that. That wasn't something we talked about an hour ago. No, I wouldn't know.
You've definitely done that before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want to believe I'm going to be a good plant mother to my new plants that I have. I have to believe in myself.
You do it. You just keep believing that, and maybe it'll be true.
And in the outtakes, you can hear about naked ladies with bushes from Aaron.
That is true as well. That is true. Hey, let's just go over all the outtakes before we start the show. Why not? Let's just redo them all.
Danae's greenhouse owner does not know the difference between Seymour and Audrey 2.
He probably calls it Frankenstein instead of Frankenstein's monster too.
Yes, exactly. I heard, I actually heard. I don't. Well, I can't talk. I don't remember what the specific thing was, but the reason, I heard this whole diatribe on why calling the monster Frankenstein is actually correct, but grammatically, but whatever. I can't remember what the specifics were, and it was annoying. So
yeah, it's so annoying when people actually you and correct you on things. Can you imagine being around people whose job it was to do actuallys? That'd be just.
We should do an actually script. The entirety of the script is just all actuallys.
Yeah. It just that should be, next time we introduce a narrator or something, that should just be their thing. Just every sentence starts with, actually.
God, how fast would we get unsubbed on a mass level?
Yeah. It is definitely the beauty and pain of what we do here in the Sins universe. For sure.
Gotta find that balance.
Speaking of beauty and not so much pain, thank you to our Sin Club members. We've been kind of kicking off our shows by thanking those who actually support what goes on in the Sins universe. And if you are one of those Sin Club members, thank you so much. Hope you're enjoying all the thank yous that we send your way through early videos, extra podcast, extra videos. There's one extra video each month, merch discounts, all sorts of fun stuff that we like to send to our Sin Club members. Plus, there's kind of a fun little community there, too. I'll notice when we post a video early, there's a lot of comments and conversation and that kind of stuff that's really fun too. So nice little budding community, and we'd love for you to be a part of it. If you haven't thought about Sin Club membership, you like the CinemaSins universe, maybe that's something that you want to go check out. Just go to the page. It's at Patreon, patreon.com/CinemaSins. And if you go there, you'll see a list of the different levels of membership and kind of the fun thank yous that come with each level, and you can kind of decide for yourself if that's something that you want to do in a club that you want to be a part of. So we certainly invite you. You can go direct to the website, patreon.com/CinemaSins, or just go to cinemasins.com and click on membership, and it should get you there as well.
I was on Discord yesterday, and I got to have a conversation about eating Cheetos with chopsticks.
That's right.
And the show Criminal on Netflix.
That's true. And I should say, I don't know if that was in a Sin Club channel or not, but a lot of the channels on Discord are for our Sin Club members. So, that's another thing you can integrate with your membership on Discord and kind of have access to all the different channels. So very fun.
I believe it was Behind the Sins, but it could have been Pets. I have no idea. I just randomly ended up in a channel. You're talking about
Cheetos and Doritos in the Pets channel?
We have a food channel.
We literally have a channel
I think it was
called
Behind
Food.
the Sins, because I think they were listening to the podcast and they sent me a message, or they tagged me in a message.
Yeah.
And then I had somebody on Twitter tell me that they ate Doritos with chopsticks. And then Jeremy told us why he didn't eat ribs. So it was all very exciting.
It was all very exciting. It was a very full day for Jonathan.
That's right. It's all about the finger foods.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into it. Let's kick it off with the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
Going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, how we felt about the stuff that we're sending in general. We like to start in the TV Sins universe, and Avatar: Tales of Ba Sing Se. Probably, I think this is the most popular episode of the series, and I think there are many reasons for that. But if you didn't know that before we put out the video, then you maybe know it after reading the comments. So yeah, this one is very much a fan favorite, and we're glad to kind of take our look at it. There was one,
rightfully so. It's so good.
I remember there was one comment that was like, it was so funny because you could almost hear the concern in their voice, and it was like, guys, no, really, you shouldn't have done this one. Like, you know, like usually I get that's a joke, but no, really, you should have stayed away.
Yeah,
man, and I gotta say, people were really bummed out too, because this was also the week Netflix announced they weren't going forward with the live action Avatar.
Oh yeah, it's a bad week for Avatar.
And you showed, but I'm like, but you have this one, so I mean, why is that a bad thing necessarily?
It's not. I mean, overall, I really think Last Airbender live action could be really cool and really fun.
Oh, okay.
I would love to see a live action version of this story. And also, if for no other reason than to wash the taste out of our mouths of that non-existent movie that was never made by one of my favorite directors who never made that movie. So
it might come back, though. It might come back. I mean, that Lord of the Rings thing in Amazon has gone away and come back like 5 times now. So,
but I read an article that didn't indicate that it wasn't going to be moving forward.
No, they're still moving forward. That's the problem.
Oh.
The creators said split based on creative differences, which is like the death sign for me, because that's kind of the whole thing with the movie. It was just like they weren't involved, and you can tell. So, yeah.
So you're saying the actual Avatar creators are no longer involved?
Correct. They stepped away.
Yeah, I could see that being discouraging to fans.
Yeah.
This episode was pretty good. I like anthology. I'm a big anthology fan, and so that's always interesting to me. I think like most anthologies, it had some stories are better than others, but I can see why people would enjoy this.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of my favorites as well. The Uncle Iroh story is really powerful. It's so powerful, and it's so well done. And there's
that I know you mentioned the comments, but they're all about, almost all of them about Iroh. It's Iroh, yeah, specifically. Yeah, like I'm so proud of this community for criticizing the lack of sins that were taken off for Uncle Iroh's story. And so then there's 402.
That's what we do on this show, right? We talk about this stuff, and we've often said we're not, TV remove a sin, we're TV sins, right? Like we, you know what we do. However, if our overall goal is to please the audience, well, not please the audience, but entertain the audience, right? Like if we want to entertain the audience, is there something better in that moment about taking off 3 sins instead of 1? Like, is that something, we should have done? What do you guys think? Because I kind of almost lean that way.
I know this is the first time I ever watched this, so I didn't have the attachment that other people do. When I saw him go sing to that kid, the sin that's in there about like, why is he butting in with this mom dealing with her kid? Because that would piss me off. That was the only thing I thought of. And then apparently everybody else is like, oh, that song's so beautiful. And then I felt like an asshole.
Well, no, it is. But I think if I had it to do over again, me personally, and everybody can have their own opinions. If I had it to do over again, I think I would have taken 3 sins off, because we add a sin for his singing because he's such a horrible singer. Like, it's not like, great.
Which
like,
he's not.
In tune or whatever. It's pretty bad. It's like not great singing.
It isn't.
No, you're feeling the emotion. The actual singing is pretty poor, in my opinion. Listen,
okay,
I'll be the Simon Cowell here if I need to be.
Mr. like professional singer. Bad singing. Let me tell you about my friend who shall remain nameless. God bless her. She might listen to the show.
Oh, I thought you were just talking about me because I am a bad singer.
When we used to hang out, like music in the car, driving around, she's completely tone deaf. Never a note even close to right. And I come from a singing family. It's painful, painful to listen to her sing. But she sings with such joy that I loved it. She's one of my favorite singers. I know it sounds like cliche, but she just sings with such joy. So kind of like, it kind of counteracts itself. She has no ability to sing. Iroh did a great job.
No, you need to listen to it again, I think. I think you need to listen to it again, because I think you're dealing with the emotion.
He was also sobbing his face off.
Not
Do you know how
He was
hard it is
also-
to
when
sing on key
calming
while
the
you're
baby.
sobbing your face
Not when he
off?
was calming the baby. Look, I don't want to go into this too much, but I will say if we're gonna send a prairie dog for being slightly under a note, we have to send Iroh as well. Like we've set
That's
a,
true,
We
that's
should have
true.
we've set a
also
standard here.
sent him for being way too interested in Zuko's date. That was weird.
yeah,
He was-
that's right.
He was very pervy.
And a lot of relationship
No.
pressure there.
No,
Yes,
no.
he was, man. He's like, so what'd you guys do? Did
So
you guys
back-
get to first base? What happened?
Back
You
to
know-
my point. Because I got
yeah.
interrupted midpoint. But back to my didn't get interrupted. We're having a conversation. I apologize. Back to my point. I was saying that I wanted to take 3 sins off because we sinned the singing and we needed the removal to be more powerful than that. I think we there was some indication that needed to be for us to say we get that overall this is more powerful than it is bad. And I think that was the issue, that it was like 1 sin on, 1 sin off, and it's like so the balance was off a little bit. I think so. That's
I see what you mean.
That's
Yeah,
maybe
there
why
were-
I would redo it. But yeah,
There were a couple
Yeah,
of
I don't care.
sins
We're
that led
TV
up to
sins.
it. Yeah. I mean, I think I can see what you're saying. I knew we were, no matter what decision we made, we're totally fucked. Because
right. We could have taken 3 off and people would have said take 300 off.
it
Yeah,
needs
absolutely.
10. Right. Or there need to be no sins. And I cannot remember. I forgot to copy it down. But I think it was either last week's episode or 2 weeks ago's Avatar episode, somebody actually references, don't do bossing say, or if you do bossing say, you need to, take sins off, or I'm emotionally preparing myself to hear Iroh on bossing say. Like people were talking about that one, kind of knowing that had to be coming or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually responded to somebody with something to the tune of prepare yourself.
Yes.
Because
Well,
they
it
were
was funny. You had mentioned all those things after I had written my script, so I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna piss off everybody if Aaron keeps this shit in the script."
Yeah.
I
You
don't
did.
know that we could have done right, but I do think that because we know the story and because we're familiar with the story, I feel like we as fans want to give it something
Right.
that it deserves. But we as Sins writers, and also playing that delicate role of not 100% understanding everything that we're sinning, it's a hard one to know if there's a quote unquote
Yeah.
correct response.
The other thing I would probably do differently is I probably would reference the in memoriam that is a part
Yeah.
of this episode. I think that is another thing where that is a reason people love this episode. And oftentimes we'll talk about, I think this is valuable to say, we'll talk about how when we sin stuff, we want to make sure we hit the points that people remember, right? Like if there's a line from, a show or a movie,
if we know it.
if we know it. And that is definitely something people remember about this, is that it was a tribute to the voice actor of Iroh, who died of throat cancer, I believe.
He
sort
had
of
died
cancer.
when this episode aired initially, or more recently.
Well, they had them in memoriam on there. I'm not sure of the timeline. I'm honestly not, but I know, it says, for Mako at the end.
Mako was the voice. I guess I didn't catch that.
So it's kind
Yeah.
of one of those things where, life is going to be like that, and it is one where regret is too strong a word. I don't regret anything we did. I think we put out a great video. I love this video. In fact, we're going to talk about a lot of the fun we had in this video. But I think just like with anything, there are things you might change if you had to do it over again. So that
He
would be one of them.
died in 2006 of esophagus. So I guess that's throat cancer.
Yeah, esophageal cancer. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyways, that's probably the main thing we probably need to talk about right at the top. But there's plenty other here. Danae, you haven't really expressed thoughts on the episode specifically. So since we wrote on it, why don't you do that and then just move into the video?
Well, I shadowed on this one. Mm-hmm. And so it was nice because I had a chance to just quickly kind of watch it just to make sure I was familiar with it so I could give kind of some general notes. And man, I loved this episode. So cool to see all of our friends doing little adventures in a big city. You know what I mean? And this is the one that gives us that connection to Zuko trying to be like a normal person, like a normal young adult trying to find some normalcy in his life. So, but then we also are on that hunt for Appa and that heartbreaking end. So it was just, I don't know, since it's been some time since I've watched the series, it's fun to go back and just have those little touch points. But I thought you guys had a lot of fun in the script. I enjoyed like all the different perspective. I learned about Knight of Kangalipus. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
I was like, my note on that one was like, I don't get this one, but I'm sure you guys do. And
That's a
I guess it's a movie.
Jonathan thing all the way.
Night of the Lepus is just a really like infamous bad movie. It's about killer rabbits that are like huge. They're like these like giant like 200-pound rabbits that are like taking over this. Just Google it. It's hilarious.
No, don't
I've never
Google
actually
it,
watched it.
Danae, don't Google it.
I'm not going to.
No, it's like B movie. It's like Godzilla with rabbits. It's silly, and I've never seen the movie. I'm just well aware of it because it's like I said, it's kind of an infamous,
notoriously
bad movie.
horrible.
Yeah.
Also, as a shadow, getting to go in and see the sins as they're being combined together and tweaked, and all that stuff. How was your night, Prince Zuko? And then the sin is, tell me more, tell me more. I think I made a comment on there like, I don't remember what I said, but it was something like,
I see what you're doing there, or something like that.
Because we're referencing the whole Zuko thing again. And I think, Jonathan, you replied with, that wasn't my sin. Like I was going to
No, it really wasn't, but I was very impressed by it. I loved it, but no,
It's so
I
good.
can't take credit for it.
I could almost tell, like I felt like I was being personally trolled.
Yeah,
so that was fun.
Danae will do that note every once in a while on scripts. Like, I see you. I
see what
don't think
you're
you're
doing.
sneaking this by me.
It's still super fun. I really liked that. I also really thought the one that you guys wrote in the script to give the editors the creativity to do the zooming and the angles for the, if you had one shot, one opportunity, would you capture it? Like that whole sin was just really fun to see them put together.
Here's the thing about that sin that I love and that I think goes over the head of a lot of people. It literally is a haiku. Like it's 575, and it's one of those. I got that. But it's one of those things. I was like, I should put an Eminem, line here from "Lose Yourself" or whatever, and then I'll turn it into a haiku. And I barely had to change. I think I had to change one syllable. It was already haiku, and I was like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Now I like it even more. That whole scene with Sokka going into this like slam, like haiku slam poetry thing.
Yeah.
I love that part. But Jonathan, I know it drove you nuts.
No, that was actually one of my favorite parts of this
really?
episode.
I thought it bothered you.
I thought it was funny, yeah.
Okay. The chittering
funny.
monkey in the springtime, he climbs treetops and thinks himself tall.
No, I thought that was pretty ingenious.
Oh, that's so like, that's so good. That's such a good slam. I loved it.
No, and Aaron wrote all the ones that were on there. I had something, because we both were thinking 8 Mile, but Aaron just went a little more with it. So
well,
yeah,
and also that
really
she
fun.
just happens to have a plum up her sleeve, because of course you do.
I will say the only other sin that I'll mention, I wrote down so many others, but the other sin that I'll mention is the one I think it was Jonathan that points out that they let Toph continue to do her treatment after she like tears a wall out of the spa. It's just a fun catch. Like, wait, so she's still like getting to hang out after all this damage? I think the joke was about insurance. Bossing saves insurance, so I thought that was really good.
Jonathan, what about you?
Do they, real quick, you mentioned most of it because I had the haiku. I did like the one vignette per character, them's the rules. I thought that was really funny. And then the whole, I wrote down, you might think that's okay. Oh yeah, the snot bubble. That you might think it's okay, but it's not.
It's not.
And Aaron send I just think it's funny that we send previously on stuff. So we're technically sending like a different episode.
Yeah.
but it's within this episode. Do they hang out in Bossing Say for a while though? Is that like a place they hang? And
Not for a super long time, but they're there for a few episodes.
I just got from some of your sends that it made it sound like that they were probably going to be there for a minute.
Yeah.
But that's all I had. No, it was really fun to work on. I've enjoyed these.
The observation that why doesn't Katara have her own time in the morning? I thought was great, Jonathan. And then the Momo off to the side drinking what I can only assume is warm pee made me laugh in that one. More flower bending made me laugh. Was that a shadow ad?
Yeah.
I can't. Okay, yeah. For some reason, I thought maybe that was a shadow ad. So yeah, that made me laugh quite a bit. The gendering of mani-pedis was something I was proud I got in there. The idea that, it's called fancy ladies and it's how you be a lady. That vignette is very interesting to me because they have that conversation at the end, and we kind of sent it. They have that conversation at the end about, am I pretty? And they kind of say it doesn't matter. But then the whole thing is that she has gained, like self-esteem from being prettied up. And so I don't know, it was kind of an interesting against itself kind of message in a little bit. I don't think it's like contradictory in a heavy way. I just think there's an interesting thing to think about there about, what makes someone beautiful and what is that segment saying about it.
They're kids too, though, right?
Yeah.
They're kids, right? All these people are kids. I mean, that's a very different thing with little girls versus like adults. I mean, I think that's more, if you look at it from their perspective, I mean, that's just something they want to do.
Well, and culturally at the time, I think that there is that expectation that women are going to fulfill a certain role. And so
that's not the expectation anymore. Really? I'm just kidding.
I think it still is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if you guys know this, but this is a kids show, as we have been told in the comments many times.
It's a kids show, guys.
It's a kids show, guys. What are you doing? This is a kids show. Oh, well, we do that sometimes.
I hate that excuse though. Like it's not an excuse. And it's because it's also very good, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
So you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and be like, it's really quality stuff, and then be like, well, you can't make fun of it because it's just a kid's show. You can't have it both ways.
How dare you? We send SpongeBob. We know no bounds.
That's right. That's right. The We Been to Zoo section where Aang makes a zoo was Danae really helped with kind of wording that one about into more captivity. I thought that was really...
that whole zoo thing made no sense. Like,
right?
That was part of the show I did not really care for. Like literally didn't care for because it was just weird. And it was just like, oh, we got to have Aang do something.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you could have just not had Aang do something. Like that would have been okay.
It is fun though to see him do like mass bending because you kind of, I mean, I do like that you get to see that he's mastering all of these elements and to be able to create a habitat, multiple habitats. That's kind of a cool concept, but it's absolutely Cinnable, especially with all the people just suddenly, flowing out of the city to go see this new zoo.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then rightfully so, what the hell is that? Rightfully so, we point out later that, rightfully zoo, that there's random animals still out and about, like those tigers or whatever, and you're like, why aren't they in the zoo? Like, or the panthers or whatever they were.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved also during that section being able to reference Joe Exotic and Tiger King, and Tiger Dillo fun. King instead of Tiger King. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, we have to give a shout out to the greatest cabbage farmer in the history of television. This is a huge Avatar fan reference. That cabbage farmer is in several episodes. I'm going to say at least 4.
Oh, cool.
And bad things are always happening to him.
Yes.
And
his poor cart of cabbages.
His poor cabbages. And so he has the worst luck. So the idea was that he deserves a sin off, so we'll give him a sin off, but then Cinny gives him a sin anyway. And we're like, yeah, that sounds about right.
See, that's cool because that works. Like, I didn't know that. And that still works in the context of what happens. But then if you have that knowledge, it's cool too.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun watching people kind of learn that in the comments. Like people were like, hey, you said remove a sin and then it added a sin, and then somebody would explain the joke to them, and it was kind of fun to see people like, oh, that's clever, that's fun, or whatever. So yeah.
It says on a quick Reddit search, he's in 4 episodes: The King of Omashu, The Waterbending Scroll, The Serpent's Pass, and The Tales of Ba Sing Se.
Yeah. So, yep. I'm glad we got to mention the cabbage farmer as well.
For sure.
All right, let's move on to SpongeBob Idiot Box. This was a Hughes Watkins script. Do we have any more to say about the show SpongeBob? It's just so random.
I will say this was the first episode that I actually kind of got it. Like, I thought this episode was genuinely funny.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know that I've kind of just been annoyed at the few we've done before this, but this one actually, for some reason, this one just struck my fancy, or I'm just used to it. But I loved the innocence of SpongeBob and Patrick in the whole imagination thing and how irritated Squidward was getting. I just thought all that played really well.
Yeah.
And then even like there were just those little things like where they finally like the whole like thing where they finally decided to let him, like when he finally got in the box. I like loved that whole little moment where he thought he was about to go wherever they were, and then they were just like beep beep beep. Arr. It was so funny.
It is really funny. It really is.
Yeah, it can be.
I mean, it's a dumb show, right?
Yeah.
Like there's not a lot of substance in these shows, and for that reason, maybe it's an interesting kind of refresher because you don't watch it to. At least I don't watch SpongeBob to have some deep revelation of self. It's like it's just silliness and it's easy to sin. Although we want to try to avoid sinning the same things over and over again, but there's so much that just doesn't add up, and you can find another angle, like them shrinking and enlarging, or is the cardboard box made of cardboard or is it wood? You know, like there's just stuff that you can always ask. So there's things you can kind of reach for. But as far as storyline and consistency and things like that, it's a strange one because it's just dumb. It's just a
I
dumb
think it's
book.
interesting that most of our shows are either like 22 minutes or 43 minutes because we're usually doing 30-minute or hour shows, and those are usually like 6, 7, 8-minute videos. This was 7. This was like a 7-minute video, and it's a 10-minute episode.
That's right.
We definitely got a lot. We basically see
happen.
like the entire episode.
Yeah.
It will happen someday where the Sins video is longer than what we're sinning. That is going to happen on TV Sins at some point.
It's come close in music video Sins, I think.
Well,
I think we've come pretty close to doing that there. But yeah, no, I just thought that was hilarious.
That definitely happens in music video Sins. In fact, this week the song in music video Sins, the Sins video is over 5 minutes long. The song's 2.5. So I mean, it absolutely happens.
Okay, then never mind. It has happened, I guess.
In music video Sins, but not in TV Sins yet. I don't think we've. And
this got close.
Can you imagine CinemaSins?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jonathan, but I think I got there maybe just a little bit faster. I just kind of gave myself to SpongeBob about the second episode we watched, and I was just like, this is just really ridiculous fun. So it is good stuff. It's absolutely good stuff. You guys wrote on it. Speaking of which, I don't know. I said the balls of Tall Sing Se. No, the Tales of Ba Sing Se was.
That is a totally different show.
It really is. That was Jonathan and I with Danae shadowing.
That's a different kind of plant.
Right. Yes, exactly.
It's a very bulbous plant.
Yes.
So.
Not as much.
Take
bush.
a drink. Outtake reference. So anyhow, this was a Hughes Watkins script, so I will start talking about the video itself. This is a boat and you know it right off the bat. Really funny to me. I don't know why that one hit me so hard, but it was just like there's an anger to it, which is like, stop calling this boat a car. It's not. I thought that was great.
I don't know if that's what Danae wrote or if she just changed mine. I think you wrote that, right? Because
so yeah, I was lead on this one, so I did the combine. And when I was reading yours, I was cracked up because you had a different angle on it. Like your script, it started with accepting it and like doing some other, there was some other joke work done. And then at the end, your final one was, you know what? While I'm at it, this is a boat. So you got there in a different way, whereas mine at the very tip top, I was just like, it's a fucking boat and you know it.
I thought that was really fun.
It's really good. It's really good. Have to mention the imagination GIF. We have to mention that I said GIF. It was interesting because that went through a lot of changes in the process. And originally, there were kind of some jokes about the pronunciation of GIF, which is always fun. But I actually kind of like it that it was just said the way that I say it, and then I put the trigger warning as a comment from the channel as the pinned comment on the video. Trigger warning: the narrator, prefers a soft G pronunciation of GIF. And then the comments. I think there's like 50 to 60 comments under that of people just going to GIF war. And it's one of my favorite things. I don't know why the GIF war is one of my favorite things ever. It just is, because it means nothing. It is so unimportant, and people including me, care so much about it. And it's just one of my favorite things.
I never thought twice about it until I met you.
Well, what's funny, I've actually adopted this way of saying GIF, like I just say both. And there was comments on an episode recently where I corrected myself incorrectly, and people were like, she's giving it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just do that. I don't even think about it. It's like an appeasal of both. I just say GIF, but I should just pick one side, in which case GIF is correct. But that sin was interesting too, because when it was written, it was kind of like, how do we turn this into something fun? Because it is one of the most iconic GIFs of all time. It was, the whole imagination thing. It's just one that everybody can kind of go to real easily. And to see it unfold in the episode was fun for me because I didn't know where it originated from. I mean, I've seen the GIF hundreds of times, but I didn't know what episode it originated from. So it was kind of a little surprise for me as I watched it, like, oh, cool, here it is. So we wanted to do something, and we thought about like wrestling back and forth with the idea. From originally, Aaron, it wasn't about whether to say GIF or GIF.
No, not at all.
it was the original kind of battle back and forth with adding a sin, taking one away is the idea of gifts at all. Like,
right. Yeah.
Like the idea of meme culture. Is that something that's a sin or is it a good thing? We don't like, so that wrestling moment was supposed to try to kind of show up visually on the screen somehow with
it didn't really make
Cinny,
sense.
you know, and when we watched it, it's just like, yeah, this just isn't feeling right. So it was rewritten and I think it worked a lot better. It turns into the GIF war and that's perfect. It's fine.
It's beautiful. The no pants will always be sinful to me. I laughed. No pants in animation is definitely going to be a thing. We should come up with some sort of just simple, like, this works kind of sin for no pants in animation.
Well, that was another thing because we just the week before were talking about no pants and DuckTales. And
right.
It just happened to get it's just random.
Yeah. The actually of the breathe water in the box. For me, I think I said this during the process, and I was like, "It's fine, we'll leave it." But I know this will be in the comments, and it is in the comments. The actually is you actually do need holes in a box underwater for oxygen to get in there because it's not like the oxygen is inherent to the water. You will run out of oxygen in the water that's in the box. But I still, I thought the sin was really funny. So yeah.
But I mean, it's just everything under the water. I mean, all that. I mean, even like, why are they wearing clothes? You know, like, I mean, you could even go into that because I mean, I don't know, just none of it makes sense. Like, how would the TV work? I mean, you could if you just did that all day, you'd be going crazy.
So
I like the sigh.
So help me, I'll send this show into oblivion. Was great. Thank you for letting me say that. Whoever dropped the MTV's The Challenge reference in, I felt like that was for me, and I appreciate it.
It was. I was just trying to think because he said something like, "Is there nothing on without boxes?" And I was just trying to think of the most random thing. And then I actually had another mention of it, and then we just cut that one. But like I had it like kind of almost a running thing. But it didn't really. It made even less sense the second time. But then we had the outtake.
The outtake is so great. Johnny Bananas. So Cowboy Moon Robot Pirate Island observation I really liked. The idea that why do you want to see a cowboy on the moon if you're going to Robot Pirate Island? I thought was really great. And then I wanted to talk about you done messed up, Ron, which you may be wondering in a one I didn't write on how I messed up. Well, I'm the narrator now, and one of the interesting things with the narrator is sometimes you don't quite grasp the context of a sin and read it correctly. But if all the words are said correctly, a lot of times people won't point it out. They'll be like, "That's okay." The last sin, or one of the last sins, is the saddest thing I've ever heard. And I didn't realize that was kind of a reference to him saying this is the funnest I've ever had, and it's like, so there's a different way to say that where it's like, and this is the saddest thing I've ever heard, where it's like you can tell you're referencing that other thing. And I didn't say it that way. So it's interesting as a narrator to kind of hear yourself kind of miss the context in how you're saying something.
I mean, I wrote that one and I thought it was great. And also, in the review process, oftentimes if a narration doesn't sound like what we want, we'll kick it back up, and say, hey, can we get a redo on this? But I thought it was fine. I thought it worked just fine.
Because we did do pickups, didn't we? But that wasn't one of them.
Yeah, it was just one of those things for me where, and so maybe it's just a personal thing. I was like, oh, I could have done that, but I could have gotten the context and sold that a little bit better. For me, I love that stuff. I hope you guys know that when you're doing notes too. It's like, if you want me to reread something because I kind of missed the version of it, like, direct me, like, let me know and I'll redo it. But anyways, I wanted to mention that because I thought maybe that would be interesting.
We'll shame you for sure.
I thought maybe the audience might find that process interesting a little bit. The kind of contextual narration.
I think we actually did that on this one, where we had you redo one on this one.
Yeah, it was the what. It was the way that you
pronounced what. Mm-hmm. And so I actually sent you an audio prompt. It sounds something like this, like what? Like
defensive.
Like, it was more defensive.
And
your first one was like,
my
what?
read was quizzical. Yeah, my read was like, what? Yeah. And it was supposed to be what?
Yeah. And that obviously changes things. So to your point, we know how to tell you when you mess up.
Yeah, and Danae even asked me, she's like, am I hearing this right? Does this need to be redone? And I was like, absolutely. That's not correct.
Just tiptoe around Aaron. Don't hurt Aaron's feelings. But it's one of those
things, like, I mean, and we try to explain that in the script, but some of them just you don't think about it at the time, or you just assume. That's one thing I have a hard time with. I just assume it's going to be read a certain way, and I shouldn't have really assumed that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
no,
on me.
I will catch myself sometimes realizing the context after I've read something and then doing it again. And I've told the editors, always take, unless I say differently, always take my last version, because if I do it again, there's a reason I was trying to change something. So yeah, it's an interesting process. I thought that might be some interesting insight. What did you guys want to pull from the video itself? Danae, why don't you start?
I liked our sin off for the sombrero hat. When I saw it, because we had just recently sinned the bear. What was that called? Like
I don't remember what it was called, but it was the camping one.
It was a camping episode.
Well, camping episode.
It's called
right?
the camping episode, I believe.
Yeah,
but I'm
no,
wrong.
No, I mean the animal.
Oh,
like a bear, trout. How you guys? I can just hear all the SpongeBob
bearfish.
Was it a kangalepus?
All the SpongeBob fans are screaming at me right now, and you're all talking too quickly. I can't hear you.
Was it a tiger dillo?
Anyways, I remember like this moment where he has a sombrero. So to see it pop up, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Here it is.
And I thought, sea bear.
Yes, that's it. Sea bass and a bear. That's what it was. Originally, my sin idea was going to be to sin that the sombrero would have survived the sea bear. But then in research, it's actually opposite of that. And it appears before that episode. And so I flipped it around to just kind of at least give some credit to the show for putting something into its universe that it's going to use again. I thought that was really clever. I really liked Jonathan's sin, the after the beep bop boop arg, and then his sin was, to be fair, this is way more entertaining than the last 4 Pirate of the Caribbean films.
Yeah, that's good.
Thought that was really fun. Being able to sin the heaviness of those the box TVs was fun for me, because I hated those things. I hated them so much because I used to get like the TV hand-me-downs, and so I just have lots of memories of hauling massive box TVs around before flat screens.
So there's people that don't realize that TVs used to be heavy. Like, that's interesting, right?
So big.
Because like now they're not. They're light as they're awkward. Like sometimes you have to have 2 people carry them just because they're so big and awkward.
Now they fit in your pocket. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, that too.
Do you want to hear? Do you want to hear a story of the first TV I saved money and bought? This was Gateway, the computer company, released a computer called the Gateway Destination, and it was the first commercial computer that acted as a television as well. And so I was, because you know me, like early adoption is like in my blood. Like I want, new techno toys as soon as they're available. So I saved a couple $1,000s for this thing, and it was this huge 50-inch cathode ray TV that, it is as wide as it is long. You know what I mean? And it weighed probably 100 pounds at least. And it was the most awful thing to have to move anytime.
I bet it weighed more than that.
And all that just so I could use my little mouse and keyboard and instant message people on AOL Instant Messenger on my television.
That you had to have plugged into the phone line.
Right, yeah.
Is Gateway still a thing?
I don't think so. I think they got bought. So,
but
did Dell kind of take over that?
Something like that, yeah.
So I just want to point out, Aaron, this is one way that you and I are so similar, because over my right shoulder is my first Gateway desktop. And this is the first hybrid computer ever made where the screen and the computer were all in one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's the first one ever made. And that thing was really, really expensive when I bought it. And it still turns on. It takes about 5 minutes, but it still turns on and boots up.
What do you mean by that? Is that one of the ones where like the tower's like just on the back of it? Like
The tower, it's all in the screen.
Yeah.
And it was the first of its kind. And we had a Gateway store in Springfield. My mom and I used to walk in and just look at all the tech. And so my first laptop, I think, was a Gateway, which weighs 55 pounds or something. And then this bad boy. So, I mean, just cool stuff. So I liked being able to sin old tech in a way, it's a little nostalgia, but like describing that you have to put it on rollers that would like create dents in your floor.
Right. Yeah.
And why is it not getting caught in the sand? That's a nice sin to kind of reach for. And the last one I liked was people who leave their front doors open. I really enjoyed just something simple.
And what about you, Jonathan?
You guys mentioned just about everything. The only thing else I had was the mystery of the pie at the dump. Danae was really concerned about that pie, so I thought that was really funny.
How is it so perfectly intact? It's pie.
Who cuts a piece that well either? Like
it must
nobody
have tasted
cuts
horrible.
Oh my god.
For it to be thrown in the dump.
You know, also it's underwater, so there's that part too.
Well, you like to eat pie in the shower, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Aaron.
That's fair.
And
That's
then
fair.
I just like that we have road, we have no road. I just like the continuation of that type of sun, and
Yeah.
Fun stuff.
it's fun stuff.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, so let's move on to music video sins, shall we? Continue the SpongeBob conversation as we go to the song Agua. And I forgot.
Yeah, that's weird.
I forgot to write the artists on here. I think it's like
J Balvin. It's Tiny and it's J Balvin featuring Tiny, basically.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate
don't know
that.
exactly how you pronounce it. It's Tainy. It sounded like Barrett was saying tiny almost, like just like tiny.
So not Tiny?
But it didn't. I mean, it just didn't sound like that, but it could be.
Could it be tainty?
No.
Okay.
There's no T.
Okay. Just want to make
There's
sure.
no extra T.
Danae,
But what's weird is this was supposed to be last week's video though, and then Taylor Swift dropped Cardigan,
right?
So that got thrown in, and so this just happened to come out the same week as our SpongeBob video. That was just interesting how that happened.
No, it's good timing. It's good timing. Danae, what did Barrett have to say about Agua?
Agua was a weird experience. J Balvin is one. The end. J Balvin is one of the most popular musicians in the entire world, even appearing as a voice in Trolls 2. But I've never liked any of his music. Not only is the song forgettable, I wonder how he got paired up with SpongeBob in the first place. He may be a fan, but it makes no sense for him to do the song. The effects of animation, not to mention the sets, are bare-ass bones in this video. It's like they had a budget of $130. Sorry, that got me. It's kind of really specific.
Yep, specific is funny. That's a good lesson.
$131.24. Anyway, I'm much more looking forward to the next video we're doing, which has fewer views, but is definitely one of the most discussed of the year.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah, that'll be exciting. I turned my stuff in 2 days ago. Yeah, you and I know the two of you are going to have a ton to say about it. I like J Balvin. I think I like him more than Barrett. I don't know. There's something about him I dig. I didn't like the song, but like I don't know that I'm a fan of anything he's done solo, but he's guested on, like he was on that Cardi B, I Like It Like That. And he's done a couple other like guest spots that I enjoyed, but yeah, Barrett might be right. Maybe like his stuff by himself, I don't care as much for. And this song was pretty forgettable.
Yeah, I know nothing.
It's just
I listened to the song. I thought it was poppy. I even read the translation, so I kind of got a feel for what it was about, that kind of stuff. It's about nothing really. I mean, it's just a party song. Song.
It's like a fun one that you just put on a movie.
Yep.
So
yeah, exactly.
Well, and the movie's not coming out right now, so like it's so weird, right? Like why it's weird they even released it. Like I don't know why they released it.
We released our SpongeBob episode, and the movie's not coming out right now. So
I know, but that's still. I mean, that's a TV show. I mean, that's a TV show that exists. Like I don't know.
Yeah,
like this song is specific.
No, you're right.
Movie.
You're absolutely right. You're 100% right.
And have they even announced like when? I can't even remember if they've announced.
I don't know
it's
that they have.
Out.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard of J Balvin before, so I learned a couple things. He's a Colombian reggaeton singer, which I didn't know there was something called reggaeton. I thought it was called reggae. So I'm getting educated. He's actually been referred to as the Prince of Reggaeton. Isn't that incredible?
Right.
The Prince. That's royalty. He is one of the best-selling Latin music artists with sales of more than 35 million records worldwide, which is incredible. And then I also saw, because I did a quick Google search, of him to kind of learn more. And then the Google, you know what it is? It's this.
What? Oh
okay,
no, I know what Google is. Yeah.
First, I have to explain the internet. Then I can explain what a search engine is. I just went to refresh the search just to make sure that I was remembering what I had looked up about him correctly. And 10 hours ago, The Guardian released something, and then now CNN and other news sources are talking about it, that he apparently is recovering from coronavirus.
Oh.
So it says he got it, quote,
okay.
real bad.
Well,
well, wish him the best.
Yeah. Should we just move on then? Or do we tear apart his song while he's ill?
And Alyssa
We don't
Milano.
make fun of him.
No, that's true.
Alyssa Milano has got over coronavirus as well.
Yep.
So
Yep.
sucks. Sucks. I mean, I didn't think that the video sucked as much, but I watched the wrong video.
Oh, you did?
The one that I watched, because I watched our video correctly. I know how to go to our channel.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. You didn't want, because I had some confusion on it too. Thankfully, Barrett wrote, and then Leonard, like in the notes, the official music video. Because when I looked it up, there was like 8 things, and I was like, oh crap.
I watched the wrong one when I was really kind of curious about the song and everything, and so I was like, oh, this must have been really fun to sin. And then I watched the Sins video, and it was a completely different video.
Always watch the Sins video first, and then you'll know for sure.
But it's all right.
Yeah.
It's all right that I did that. The music video Sins was fun.
Oh, it was really fun. Right off the bat, the anger at fish bowls really made me laugh. Just how angry he was about fish bowls.
The whole, like, what responsible adult would be interested in tiny aquatic life? And I'm over here like, me, raising my hand slowly and then going, oh, responsible adult, though. Okay.
The when he continued Ella A after the Spanish word for umbrella was really funny. When he did why do they need roads or even have wheels on the boat, in my mind I was like, oh, Barrett, you sweet summer SpongeBob child. Like, it's like we have expanded so far beyond the why are there wheels on boats underwater part of the SpongeBob universe.
To be fair, I think I actually kind of wrote that one, so that was probably that was me.
Fair enough.
Even though I had just written about that in another script.
Well, then, oh, Jonathan, you sweet summer SpongeBob child.
No, but it's funny because it's like a new narrator
format. And it's
it's a different
It's
format.
a different narrator. No, totally, it works. It works. The Branson is a fourth-rate Branson really made me laugh, especially as a local.
I did write that one. You were asking if I'd written that one before the show started.
I did because I was like,
he might have expounded on it, but I suggested something like that.
Because we were just, I sent Branson recently, and then here it is again, and then I was like, oh, but this one was so much more insulting, and I felt that.
Well, I was going to write, like, I don't remember what I was going to write originally. Like, I was going to write Branson's already a fourth-rate Reno or something. I don't remember what I was going to say, but then I just thought in my head, oh, it'd be funnier if I just said Branson again. I mean,
it's so good.
Yeah.
It's great.
And also true.
I've never been, so I really don't have an opinion.
It's a beautiful area. Yeah. But the touristy of it is very rundown.
Well, that's like if you go to Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, which is kind of our Branson, it's the same thing. It's gorgeous. There's mountains.
Yep.
It's so awesome, but then it's so touristy, and you just
Yeah, it's bad.
You have a lot of local entertainers, but there are some really talented people there.
Oh,
it's
sure.
just. It kind of reminds me of the Chuck E. Cheese of entertainment.
Yeah.
But my mother-in-law and father-in-law, they were just like, they were diehard, like old school, like country music and that type of music.
They'd love
like
it
the type of performers there. And they've been a few times. Like they absolutely
They'd love it.
They made us watch videos of like
Donny Osmond.
Like, and like, I don't know if it was him, but it was people
Andy
like that.
Williams
Ronnie
used to be.
Millsap or whoever.
And Andy Williams was in Branson for a time.
Okay, I'm gonna be careful how I say this, but there's the only theater / show I've been to in Branson where I thought these people care and are having a good time are the Sight and Sound productions. Like they love what they're doing. Every other Branson show that I've been to, you can feel like the desperation of the people performing. Like they do that like every day, twice a day, some days for years and years, and you can just feel just the here I go again of it sometimes, and it's kind of.
But like Donny Osmond though, like he would be the higher end of that, I would think, because like I feel like maybe not.
It's like when certain entertainers get to like the retirement age, then they have like they have their Branson visit, kind of like you would have your Celine Dion in Vegas.
It's kind of like Vegas Light or something, like Vegas.
It's very Reno-esque
for a few months.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the only other thing I wanted to mention was the upside down glasses. Made me laugh. Like, is this going to become a thing? But it also reminded me of when I went to a 3D movie and they had reversed the polarity on the right and left lens. and everybody was trying to figure out why all the stuff that was supposed to be coming at you was going back into the screen, and the stuff that was so like it's a really weird effect. And I immediately recognized the effect. I was like, oh, this is just reversed. And so I turned my 3D glasses upside down, and it fixed everything because it changes the polarity of the lenses to match the polarity of the screen. So I got in front of the entire theater and said, turn your glasses upside down and it will all look correct. And everybody did. And so it was an entire theater of people wearing their 3D glasses upside down. So that's what that reminded me of.
That's amazing.
What about you guys?
You mentioned almost everyone that I had, except for I don't speak French very well.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I had that one written down too. That was probably my favorite actually that Barrett did, was the I don't speak French very well. It was so funny.
Very cool. We can move on from that. Into the CinemaSins universe. 4 months later, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome
do you guys
to the
remember
stage, Hustlers. Man, this video has
Was
so
this the two
many
of you?
stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was Danae and I. This is a Dicer Hughes script with a lot of shadowing by Chris. When there's a CinemaSins video that the three of us team up on, usually they will have a shadow.
We have a chaperone.
Yeah, there's a more intense shadowing process that happens with us, just because we're newer and we're they just want to.
We're not to be trusted with the car keys just yet.
Right. Anyhow, this was a Dicer Hughes script, and Chris was the shadow. He did have notes as a shadow. Maybe we should hear what Chris had to say as the shadow of this, and it deals with one of the many stories of this video and what it's been through.
The history of this video.
He wrote these notes like 2 months ago.
That's right. Even these notes are ages old.
Yeah, this thing has been delayed even since he wrote.
He's like, hey guys, really excited about baseball starting.
He said, due to many factors, Hustlers became our experiment for doing something a little different with our videos, where we cut out score to avoid claims. I think we should stop there. And just because we really haven't expounded on BTS about this part of what we do.
Yeah.
It's
and
something
despite
that's
it
definitely
being an experiment, there have been many videos that have done this before this one now, since it's been delayed.
Yeah, as far as
that's
releases, but this is the first one we started to try to figure out what we were going to do. And so you'll see comments sometimes, or maybe you'll notice it. I saw a comment in the Robots, for example, from somebody who watched that a lot. And they're like, as someone who's seen this movie a lot, none of the music is right.
Yeah, what's up with the score? Yeah.
Yeah. So we're very purposefully trying to remove music. And he goes on to say scores used to be fine, but then it became a problem. And the tiniest bit of score was claimed, and it became a big headache for us. So in the face of that, you have to try something new, he continues to say. And in this case, it was writing subtitles for what we refer to as lead-ins whenever they contained music or score. This process is not fun for the writers. Normally, we're used to being able to write a quick response to sins for music dialogue that sets up the punchline. And now, if that particular part of the lead-in contains score, we have to either write a new observation or we have to try some other thing to get that sin through into the final. So that's the Hustlers one. This is Danae talking now. So the Hustlers one is our first attempt at going in there and trying to chop it up and add subtitles and kind of find new ways of writing together.
I will say, because of some stuff we're going to be doing moving forward, though, this is probably going to be a lot easier on the eye, because there's going to be a lot of subtitles.
Yes.
For different reasons.
Yeah.
Good reasons.
Good reasons.
I mean, that
Chris
started. That's not a secret. We're doing subtitles for the lead-ins now too. So everything we're trying
Did
to
that start this week?
Yeah, there are videos.
It did. That's
there are
right, it
videos
did.
that are out that have subtitles, and we've done subtitles on some jokes and stuff. But we have really been trying for a long time, because it's something we're passionate about, to subtitle as much as we can and not make it so hard on our editors and writers and that kind of thing. And I think we're there. And so you should be seeing videos with subtitles all the way through.
And for those that are hard of hearing, or that's kind of the main, because I think YouTube has stopped allowing certain like captions, and I don't know all the details about that because I never used them.
Well, Jeremy's really passionate about subtitles being accurate, and it's just kind of a way, I think, for us to just take the reins on that and go, we're already writing lead-ins differently because of this music thing. So anytime that there's a conversation that needs to be had or someone saying something on the screen that we're reacting to as a sin, we're going to write subtitles for that, and we're going to do it as accurately as we can. And so, yeah, that's actually starting on CinemaSins and on TV Sins as well. So we're doing it all across the board.
Danae and I can talk about this more next week. I think or maybe it's in 2 weeks, but there's a video that Danae and I just did. I guess it is like 2 weeks. That had like, after we decided to start doing this, we did an episode of something that had like the worst freaking captioning I've ever seen in my life. Like
That
just
happens.
missing words.
Yeah, that happens.
Nothing, nowhere near the same thing was being said.
And Chris said it in this, and he has more to say about this particular video, but he references it is a lot. For me personally, it's more work. I think, Jonathan, you actually usually do pretty accurate lead-ins, but for me, I would do paraphrasing. Like if the people on screen are talking about pottery, I'd be like, they talk about pottery, and then here's my sin. But now it's like you have to be like, oh, you selected a really interesting colored glaze there, Nancy. Oh, thanks. And then the sin. You know what I mean? Like you have to write everything out, have the punctuation correct. Damn it, Nancy. So it has added time for the writing process for me in particular. I also have to stop and play a lot more so that I can catch it because the subtitles aren't always correct in the file. And so I have to listen back to try to get it accurate so that when the editors are copying and pasting what is now in the script, that it's accurate. And that way, whomever is watching can read along and get a real genuine feel for what we're actually sinning. So... But anyways, Hustlers was where kind of the experiment with the music part and subtitles all started in the format. So Chris continues, the negative of that for some sins is the viewer is going to have to follow the dialogue on screen along with Jeremy's narration, but hopefully the writing and images are explanatory enough that one doesn't have to rewind too much. As for shadowing, Aaron and Danae did a great job on the script. We can just stop there. I'll read that again.
Thank you, Chris.
Aaron and Danae did a great job. The main additions were scrutinizing J-Lo's wise words, such as, this whole country is a strip club. You do the dance and you take the money, or whatever that line was, which that's kind of towards the very end. And it's one of my favorite additions that he had to the script. He also said, I liked pretending being blissfully unaware that Usher had any vocation in life other than an actor, that he's mainly known for She's All That and Nothing Else. Also, I am proud of contributing to a script where my pun about men constantly wooing Constance Wu could very easily be confused with a Dicer special.
Yeah, I love that one, of course. This was a lot of fun. Jonathan, since you didn't write on it, we should talk about the movie itself, because he mostly talked about the video, but let's talk about the movie itself. And Danae, I'll let you start.
Sure.
Because this is, if nothing else, this is a very female-centric film. And
it's a woman in power film. It's also about sexualization of women on their own terms, and so that's an interesting thing to watch. But the substance of the movie, this being kind of based on a true story, I'm always interested in that. But I'll obviously have to take things with a grain of salt because you don't know how much it's actually based on the real story. And so this movie, I think what they're trying to do is ask us to relate to the friendship of these women and to understand why they turn into criminals and to see their life before this, especially with, Constance Wu's character, like Destiny, I think. Is the name in the movie. Obviously, it's not her real name in real life, but this Destiny character, to feel empathy towards her because she was abandoned and had a hard life, and now she's got a child and she's trying to make things work and take care of her grandmother, and so she's going to lean to break the law to do that. But I had a really hard time feeling anything about that in a positive way. I don't want to say that I watched this going, y'all deserve to be arrested, but I thought what they were doing was really dangerous and careless and horrible and breaking, literally driving men's lives into the ground. The one in particular that they end up hurting really terribly, he was a single dad who lost his house, had burned down recently, and he was taking care of, I think, an autistic child. And they pretty much they devastated him. They used a company card. He lost his job. And that was sort of the beginning of the end of their whole thing. So I don't know. It was really hard for me to watch and be like, oh, I'm having fun. It's more like,
right,
you all are really
it's a very serious movie. Like, I don't Yeah.
Yeah, and it also kind of wants, like, I feel like it was trying to do some cool stuff. Like there was like a little bit of that element of documentary style. They cut the audio at one point in time, and Aaron points out in the script that has some really interesting ideas there, but that's not really carried through for the rest. And then there's these particular scenes that are just horribly long, like J-Lo telling a story about some famous guy that she was with at one point in time that lasts for probably 8 minutes, and it just doesn't make sense for, like, I don't know. It was really, really hard. Or the scene where the guy jumps off the roof, and I don't know if this happened in real life, but the guy that jumps off the roof, and then, Destiny is having to get him to the hospital, and then running around to get her kid, and I guess forgets she has a cell phone to call to find out where her kid is, and then she grabs her kid. I love
Constance Wu in that scene though, where she's like pretending to be that she's so sad, and then she immediately turns it off. That is so good.
Yeah, and then she's like running to get her kid. She's covered in blood. Nobody stops her. Yeah. And it's just, and I think the movie is trying to get us to feel certain things about the intensity and kind of hitting a wall. And it kind of fell short for me in a lot of ways. So I leave this movie with the only thing, which is that J-Lo is a badass. And everyone should respect that woman for dancing the way she dances, for carrying a movie that doesn't really hold up a lot to me. And that's pretty much all my thoughts on Hustler.
I think Constance Wu's really good in it too, though. I think she kind of gets short shifted because J-Lo's such a standout, and J-Lo has the more screen screen stealing type character.
Well, but then maybe they're also just it's poor writing in a way. Apologies to the writers who listen to our show because we're so famous, but.
As long as they're not children, we're fine. We just don't.
The whole ending, which is
movie,
like,
guys, we shouldn't be making fun of it.
Like Constance being given the line that her big emotional thing at the end is, but what did she say about me? Like, I mean, at that point in time, if I was holding it as a book, I would have just chucked the book into the fire. Like, what the hell, I
just took it that her character was very self-conscious, but I mean, I'd never thought about it.
But then when you think about, if this is trying to tell us that this is about friendship and that you do crazy things for friendship, and she wants to know what her friend was saying about her to reconnect as a friend, it's just a weird angle. And I don't know. It was hard. It was hard to watch.
It's a weird angle. It's a weird angle, especially considering the true story is that those two women still hate each other and they don't even talk to each other, and couldn't care less. But Jonathan, what did you think of this movie?
I liked it. I mean, I saw it in the theater, that thing called the theater.
I remember those.
To go to. I saw it there. Chris and I reviewed it. I think I gave it a B. It was solid. I was solidly in the department if I was on Sif Pop right now. But I agree with a lot of what Danae says. I do think it's interesting though. One thing I liked about this movie is I don't think it lets them off easy, which I think a lot of movies of this type would, and would make it more like something like Set It Off, which Set It Off is actually maybe a better movie, but Set It Off is also very fictional. Or, well, I say that and watch somebody come Set It Off is totally based on a true story. But that's about women robbing banks and stuff. So I didn't think this really glorified, although I will say, because you guys pointed out the slow-mo walks and stuff like that, that might be kind of a glorification, but I think it is interesting the way the movie handled the dynamic. But I do think the movie suffers that it wants to also be kind of this badass, females taking charge, even though they're doing something super illegal and probably ruining a lot of people's lives that really haven't done anything to them. I mean, you can sit here and judge whether or not a guy going to a strip club, I guess, is, whatever. But I mean, it's not like they're going there to I don't know. I don't know how bad these guys are.
They were targeted. They pulled them out of their Rolodex that they had back in their dancing days.
I mean, the Frank Whaley guy, he seemed pretty sleazy. But I mean, I don't know that all these guys were that. But I don't know. But I did like the sin about dicks being dicks and dickish and all that stuff.
That was good.
It should be decapitated.
It was. But I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Danae. But I mean, overall, it was fine. I don't know that it's a movie I'm going to revisit a bunch, but it was fine. J-Lo's awesome. She's always been awesome. I hate that now I picture her with no butthole because of Danae. But
wait, how did you know that was my sin?
Well, you actually mentioned it the other day, so that's how I knew. And so that's kind of weird and kind of, lessens my crush on her. But no, but I liked her. I liked Constance Wu a lot. I think Constance Wu is a really good actress. I think she's now been in a couple of movies, though, that I think could have been a lot better. I liked this better than Crazy Rich Asians, I will say. But anyways, yeah, it was fine. It was perfectly fine.
I liked this movie a lot less the second time through. And I remember coming out of it being struck by, one, the performances, which I think are really good. And Danae, I think you touched on that. Two, I remember being struck by just how fresh and unique it felt. It didn't feel like any other movie that I had been to recently. And I think part of that is that it is so, very female centric. There's an empowerment there, lots of stuff. I remember being very impressed by the female gaze of the camera. You can tell it's a woman directing this, and that you're dealing with a stripper on a pole, and yet somehow it respects the athleticism as much as it does the sexiness, which is really interesting. I think a man shoots that scene entirely different and focuses on different angles and different parts of the body and, things like that. It's just, I found that J-Lo stuff so great, not only for the typical reasons, as I think the narrator says, but also because it really showed you the athleticism of pole dancing. Like there's a real understanding of that here that I appreciated. Watching it the second time through, I just was really taken by how disappointing this movie is in the way that it doesn't complete its thoughts. It has ideas that it doesn't know how to resolve. And that goes for the themes, it goes for the message, it also goes for the way it's shot and the ideas that it has with creative editing and creative, turns. I think Danae kind of hinted at this as well. And yet it doesn't complete them. And I just found myself the second time through just being disappointed that it just doesn't know how to finish its sentence. And I think that is the overall thing. Now, as far as not having anyone to root for, I think that's a valid thing, and I think that is something that can impact me. I don't know if that's...
You didn't root for Nan? I was rooting for Nan.
Nan's the best.
I was late.
Nan's the best.
Nan dies.
It's true. Spoiler alert. I have always been someone who... It's not that I have to have someone to root for, but I have to have something that invests me in the story. And usually that's a character to root for. Sometimes it's a situation to root for. I notoriously don't like a lot of Scorsese movies because of this. I'm not a huge Goodfellas fan because Goodfellas is much the same way. There's nobody to root for in that movie, and I don't have something I'm rooting for either. Like, I don't have some kind of energy to carry me through other than Scorsese's adrenalized, idea of what gangster life is. Like, just kind of that, just the energy of that, I think is what's supposed to drive you. And it never has.
I kind of want to see Constance Wu get out of this, though. I mean, I don't know if that's rooting, but like, I'm invested enough and interested enough to see what happens to her. I'm not rooting for J-Lo, which I don't think you're supposed to be.
Interested, yes, but also, and maybe that's what it's going for. But she is just as much a part of ruining these people's lives as J-Lo is.
No. She absolutely is. But I guess I feel like when you're watching it, she's the one that could possibly find a way out of this. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this movie is not trying to go to the places we're trying to give it credit for either, to be fair.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't know that it knows what it's going for, because Danae also talks about the friendship angle of this. That seems like that might be the central theme here, except for where does it land on that? What does it say about that? What is the final idea that it's presenting about friendship, about female friendship, about, what it means to love someone?
I'm remembering, as I'm kind of like hounding that point too, there's that moment that J-Lo tells the reporter that she has a picture of Destiny, and she's like recalling Destiny's childhood, and she's recalling which essentially shows us that she cared about Destiny as a person, and the very few things that she's held on to include her. But I don't know if that's real. You know what I mean?
In the movie or outside the movie?
Outside the movie. And that's the hard part about this, is it's like it rides that line where it's trying to tell us it's about longevity of friendship, but I don't know if that's just kind of made up, because it is made up outside.
That does not exist, as far as I can tell in the research, outside of the movie. But I couldn't find it either. I'm saying it doesn't even really exist inside the movie. I'm not seeing her being the kind of person that would have that picture based on what the movie has told me about their relationship.
Yeah, because that's all you can really go on. You can't. I mean, the movie might be based on something, but I mean, if you're judging the movie as the movie, and you're not judging it based on how well it represents the real thing, because I mean, no movie does a good job of that for the most part.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings did, and that's totally based on real stuff. So.
I think I had a. Never mind. I can't. I just almost talked about a video that's coming out. Anyhow,
you can't do that, Aaron.
Nope, can't do that.
I'm just saying, there's always liberties taken because you want to make a movie.
That's true.
Of course,
right?
Of course. True. In fact, one of the first sins is about, based on a true story. Basically means we'll do whatever we want and just deal with it anymore.
Yeah, it kind of feels more like Fargo. How Fargo says it's based on a true story, which that's completely a joke. But
right. Let's get into it. Jonathan, why don't you kick us off since you didn't write on it? What were some of your favorite things from the video?
I had a bunch. My J-Lo crush is ruined because now she has no butthole.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say I really appreciated the combine process of that one because it was made so much better with the addition. I don't know if it was, I think Aaron added the addition of the animators of cats to remove the butthole.
Yeah.
Which
also you have to appreciate that Chris and Aaron were paying really close attention to that scene. I mean, they were studying that scene.
We all did. I watched that scene many, many times, and I paused it because I'm like, and my head was tilted like a cat or a dog, going like, where? I don't understand.
And she's really doing it. You're just like, because there's no cutting. I mean, like she's just doing that.
She's doing it.
First thing I learned is gold is a size. I thought that was really funny. One of those non-nudity strip clubs was really funny. And especially the part where you guys bring that back later when you're like the brawl underneath the brawl on J-Lo.
Mm-hmm.
I already mentioned the dicks are dicks using their dicks for dickish dicking. Font play I thought was really cool. And then the other one, how hard those safety pins are working, Sin, was hilarious. I'm guessing that was Danae.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Although I'm sure Aaron and Chris paid close attention to that scene too, but
it's what we do. That is, it's our job, Jonathan.
It's our job. We're doing our job.
But it is, I just like that poor safety pin, man. I feel for it. I hope it made it through alive. They should have had a little thing at the end. There were no safety pins harmed in the making of J-Lo's body.
I don't remember what meme it is, but there was some meme that came out and it was zooming in on someone's button that was really like barely holding a shirt together, and then like underneath it was the Spider-Man, whenever he's stretched out trying to stop that train. And it was a comparison of those two, and for whatever reason that stuck in my mind. So whenever I see that happening in fashion of any kind, I always find it really funny. So it was fun to see that one.
But I know what you mean, Aaron. Even in scenes like that, you can tell this was directed by a woman, even though it's very erotic in some ways.
I think of the backstage,
which is nothing, but that sounded really silly because obviously it's not like erotic as a male thing. But
no,
you know what I mean.
It's shooting it like where that it's there.
It doesn't feel
they're
sleazy.
A confident, powerful woman wearing a clothing that makes them feel just fine, and it's not focusing on the clothing being sexual. It's just clothes.
I don't feel like for instance, like the way I don't know who it is that it was either Whedon or Snyder, but like the way they always use the reference, the way Wonder Woman is shot in Justice League versus the way she shot in Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas in Justice League, it almost feels pervy, like it's almost like an upskirt.
It's not objectively simple, but the simple way to say it is that there is something about shooting women as humans as opposed to shooting them as objects. And that objectification happens in many different ways, and often happens subliminally and subtly with men. I don't even think this is necessarily an intentional thing that,
not at all.
And I'm not saying male directors can't shoot with a female gaze. Like that is absolutely something that we could learn to do better, right? So
I'm thinking about what you said earlier, Aaron, about like when you left this movie, you're like, oh, that's interesting. And maybe it is part of that female gaze where you weren't presented with an incredibly sexual movie. You were presented with a movie that had sexual things inside of it, but amplified the emotional story as well.
Right, yes.
Which is maybe the shining star of this movie that needs to have, applause.
You could do, and again, I'm going to bring up Showgirls, but that was a very purposeful satirical thing, some would say, and I would agree that he is doing there. But you could, if you look at the backstage of those strippers versus the backstage that we see here, and this one just feels so human. It just feels like women who are at their job, hanging out, talking about cake and flutes and whatever. And yeah, some of them are dressed, to be on stage or whatever, but the camera's not focusing on those things, and it's not making them
different sizes and shapes of
exactly,
women.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I came out of it respecting that so much.
Yeah.
And so, but watching it the second time, I became aware that the movie itself is, lacking in some areas.
Just the fact that like Liz, and I don't mean this as an insult, and I don't want this to sound, but the fact that Lizzo is a stripper in this. Different, right?
We should mention that that was a really interesting experience we blurred. So Lizzo is wearing this
you have to blur her. She's
incredibly sexy, mesh see-through, and so you can see her breasts,
everything.
but she has black tape in an X pattern across her nipples.
Oh, I don't remember that.
When we blurred it out, it made it look like they were her areola.
Oh.
So we kept running into the problem of we need to keep blurring because it's almost better to just show that it's got the X's on there at this point.
Yeah. Well, and isn't that covering it up enough?
It was really interesting to
and of
try
course,
to figure out.
Our view on how dumb that is anyway, that, a nipple is all of a sudden, But anyhow.
Well, and they're in a strip club. I mean, that is the one thing about this movie that's weird to me is when you and I'm not saying you have to show nudity, but it is weird to see a strip club where there's just no nudity. That's just odd, right? Because that's not what a strip club would be. If you walked in.
There are some like that.
Yeah, there is nudity.
But there is nudity. It's just, especially on stage in the background.
Oh, background.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. It's just not the main.
It's not predominant, which I think was really smart but anyways, back to the ones that you were.
No, that's better. I forgot about the background stuff. So yeah, no, that's fine.
I think we were. Who was it? Me or you, Danae?
Jonathan hadn't finished, I don't think.
Oh, I mean, pretty much. I will mention the "Don't worry about Destiny's Child." I'm sure she's a survivor. That was probably my favorite line.
Yeah,
that got a lot of love in the comments.
That was actually a running joke. I had two other Destiny's Child songs that I'd worked into Sins, and we decided it was stronger with just the one, and I think that's the right call.
Yeah.
So
I think we did. There was. I can't remember the other ones now. It's been a while.
I could look it up, but yeah, it's
been a while.
I think doing the one is enough. I'll go next. Let's see, the loofah sin. I thought was a great observation. We should have a talk sometime about how flush toilets work and how
gross.
It spreads everything.
No.
Always close the toilet before you flush. Somewhere right now, Fiona the flautist is telling her friends that she is the inspiration for this moment on the big screen. And girl, this sin is for you. I really liked that very much as well. And then Jonathan mentioned everything else that I had. What about you, Danae?
We're breaking the law, but we don't want to work with criminals was just confounding.
Yeah.
I didn't
Was that where we
used
used the meme?
What?
Was that where we used the meme? Where the questioning meme? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Careful 2020 is listening. What's crazy about that sin is this was written months ago.
4.5 months ago.
Still very applicable when it releases, which is sad and depressing to think about, but it's an interesting part of our of the history of everything of our times. The other one I liked was the motherhood is a mental illness sin that pretty much says that's an insult to mothers and mental illness. I thought that was perfectly put. So yeah, and I guess I just wanted to do another shout out for Aaron. I liked how you framed the sin off and the appreciation. We talked about it when we first started talking about this for the athleticism and not just, hey, look at that ass, I think that was really, really smart it sets the tone, I think, of the Sins video. And I don't think about stuff like that. And so I thought it was really, really good that your voice was heard in that way for that particular part.
Cool.
So.
But even as a guy, I just don't know how you keep yourself. I wish I was in her shape. You know what I'm saying? Like that
I'll
is insane.
I'll talk about that dance a little bit in the keeping tabs.
And that goes beyond just having muscles or something as a dude. I'm saying she is in shape.
Yeah.
There is not a part of her body that is not physically like perfected. It's insane to me. I don't even know. I can't even begin to understand how she does it. I know money helps, and being able to afford that, but having to put that kind of work in every day, just
it's impressive.
It's very impressive, because no matter how much money I had, there's no way I would do that. Like, there's just no way. I would just be eating more food because I could afford it.
That's right. Let's move on to Live Free or Die Hard. This was a Cher Watkins script. Barrett and Jonathan writing on this one. Is this the last movie in the Die Hard franchise?
No. This is the fourth one. They made a Good Day to Die Hard.
Oh, that's right. Good Day to Die. Yeah,
he goes to Russia.
This is number 4. So let's hear what Barrett had to say first.
This was the last one, though, that we had not sent, I believe. I think we send all of them.
Yes, that was John Taylor pointed that out in the comment section by saying it took CinemaSins 7 years to complete the Die Hard series. Ding! That was pretty clever. Barrett says, I don't hate Live Free or Die Hard. In fact, I kind of like it and always have. The PG-13 rating definitely cuts its balls off, though. There's no real appreciable difference in the action from this to the previous 3, but you can just sense that they've neutered McClane a little. Oliphant?
Oliphant.
Oliphant? Oliphant? Elephant?
It's actually Timothée.
I'll call him Ali Pahante.
I think it's just I don't think the Y gets an E sound, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong.
So that guy is a very good villain, as is Maggie Q. But that quick kiss they have before she goes to the remote site is all they give about fucking fighter jet. Wait, sorry, I skipped a line.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was weird. All they give about their relationship. That's emblematic of the whole movie. Lots of good ideas that were half-baked. The one egregious sequence is the fucking fighter jet that tries to nuke McClane in the middle of downtown, rush hour traffic. I like Kevin Smith in this movie. I like Justin Long. And I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead may have a future with this acting thing.
Yeah.
It's going back to Maggie Q, though, because I just recently sent something else that she happened to be in that will be coming up in a few weeks. But I don't know if she might be like she's had a career, but like I feel like she should be doing bigger stuff than she does. I just feel like she's so wasted. She's so good. And she just lights up the screen whenever she's on it. So, but anyways, that's a whole other story.
Yeah. Danae, I assume you have not seen Live Free or Die Hard. Do you have any familiarity with the Die Hard movies at all? Did you watch the first one, maybe?
Yo, all I know is there's controversy about like Christmas, and then there's somebody crawling through some
we
sort
talked
of
about
like
this though, because we did Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah, there's like a shaft. There's some stuff. That's it.
The shaft.
Because we did Die Hard with a Vengeance not that
Yep.
long ago, and we discussed all this, I believe.
Die Hard is much like male genitalia. There's a shaft and some stuff. That's basically
That's all you need to know,
That's
right?
all you need to know. So I don't really have much to say about this either.
Did you see it?
I did. I had fun. I think this is a movie you can have fun with. I think this is a movie, if you're willing just to go with it, it can be a lot of fun. Even the jet in the highway or whatever, like it does the kind of stuff where you're like, it's almost Fast and Furious kind of in that way, where it does stuff with you're like, okay, it makes no sense, but it's kind of cool to see on screen.
But they make it look like it makes sense, and like I think there is something to be said about that, right? I mean, we're sending this, right? I mean, we're going to send it because it's bullshit, but I do think like this kind of crazy shit can be done well, and I think this is a situation where it kind of is.
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, I think this movie's a blast. I mean, I'm with Barrett. We had a lot of fun talking about it because I really enjoyed this movie. This is probably like the 7th or 8th time I've seen it.
Nice.
It's nowhere near as good as the original, but that's fine. But
Sure.
I think it still falls in line with the second and third one. The only really bad Die Hard is the one after this, which is horrendous.
Yeah.
There's nothing good about it. But no, this one's fun.
Yeah. Let's move into the sins themselves. I'll kick us off. I think we should talk about, because it's all over the comments, the Johnson joke, which apparently is a callback to a Die Hard thing.
It is. Barrett wrote that, and I mean, he could speak to this better than I could. I mean, I know he knows that, so it was, but we were more making fun of just the fact that even with that callback, like just the idea that the idea that somebody named Johnson would even ring a bell with you, like you would just like, that was kind of more what it was in my mind, at least when I read it. I can't speak for him, but I mean, he's seen Die Hard a million times,
right?
I mean, so
yeah,
I
really liked Hacker Charm. Made me laugh. That was really good. I think you mentioned it being neutered. The Phantom Balls made me laugh. The "I was out of bullets" is such an awesome line, but can't remove a sin. Whew, that was close.
I had that one.
That was great.
Yeah, I didn't know how to remove a sin for it, but I really loved that. So then I just kind of thought that was funny.
No, that's great. That's perfect. I loved it. So the I guess he does love his daughter. I always thought that was a rumor. Of course, I'm gonna love that.
That was Barrett. That was
I had
so
that
good.
one too.
So anytime you can do a name pun. I don't remember in the text, was rumor capitalized? I
don't think so.
Okay,
I don't remember if it was either. I would have thought we would have,
but maybe it was. Maybe it was.
I don't.
No, well, what I was going to say, we had this conversation recently. I always err on the side of subtlety.
We did spell it correctly. We spelled it like her name.
Okay.
We spelled it with an E.
Okay.
As opposed to an O.
As opposed to an O. Yeah, it's one of those things where in this is actually from this episode, we talked about the snot sin earlier. We had discussion about whether or not in the text to spell SNOT, spell it out what's happening there. And I always err on the side of subtlety because I like the viewer to feel like they're figuring something out and they're hearing something that's hidden.
Right.
Kind of
It
ideas.
is capitalized though. It is.
Nice. What about you, Danae?
You actually mentioned most of the ones that I had written down, the more hot typing action, like kind of pointing out like the whole, just all the stuff with just like, cool, we're like just doing all this hacker stuff or whatever. So, and then the other ones you mentioned already.
Yeah, Barrett and I had a few things on that, and he cut it down quite a bit because we couldn't have like 15 sends, but there was just so much with just people typing, and it was just like, after a while, you were just like, this is ridiculous. like how is this like, suspense, oh, when are they going to press the enter key?
Yes.
But the one thing I wanted to mention was we talked about, and this was almost all Barrett, I believe, but we talked about both of us noticed the word bitch, which is not, then we were talking about this, I think last week on something else, where this was the movie I was referring to, where it was so weird. Now, I will say, I think part of it is because it's PG-13. So I think there were certain words they couldn't use, so they used bitch. But it still just got, even in 2007, I would think that would be weird. But like hearing it in 2020, just, I don't know, it was kind of sleazy.
I think it was pretty normal 13 years ago. In fact, it's still actually kind of, I don't think that's one we've really woken up to how gendered it is. Like I think that's still a fairly,
but I think it also, like I said, I think it sounded weird too, though, because I think it would have been like motherfucker or something along those lines.
If it were R, yeah.
If it was R, and I think they were just feeling they had to. So I don't know, that whole thing. And then but Mary Elizabeth Winstead, we wrote the sin about she's such a badass, but unfortunately she's kind of just a punching bag through, and like literally, like she gets hit a few times, and she's just dragged around and stuff, and it was just kind of weird. But she's really good and she's really tough, and then she ends up kicking some ass there at the end. So that was really cool. The anthrax, I'll talk about that. Actually, I have one of these things, the anthrax thing, I have to talk about in keeping tabs, but I also liked there was that one random part where he said he'd get that guy a doctor, which he's kind of kidding, but at the same time he left that guy alive after he had killed so many people.
Yeah, in the
And
stairwell.
he just randomly, we wrote that thing about he's been killing people since 1988. We've all learned to love him regardless. like we're gonna care if he just kills this guy who we don't even know who he is.
Yeah.
I just thought that was really weird. And and then the only other thing I wrote down was didn't you hear me masturbating with it profusely the other night when I was listening to your voice when he's talking about
the right hand or whatever.
Hand.
Yeah.
And then so that's all I had. You guys mentioned everything else. The rumor sin was far and away my favorite, though. I remember reading the script when he sent me the combine, and I just lost it. I was laughing so hard. I was like, "That's perfect! Why didn't I think of that?"
It's good. It's good. Well done. All right, let's move into keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to tell a story from putting together the content for the week. Maybe a Google search, some strange research, maybe even a Bing search. Who knows? We should call our keeping tabs Ding searches instead of Bing searches or Microsoft Ding. I don't know. Whatever. No, we shouldn't.
It?
Actually, I've changed my mind. We shouldn't.
Nope.
We should just keep calling it keeping tabs. Jonathan, why don't you go first since you just mentioned the one that you were going to talk about?
Oh yeah, it's from Live Free or Die Hard. So it's kind of a research and kind of a sin I didn't use. But what was funny was this was just one of those weird instances where Barrett and I were both thinking the exact same thing. So there's a part where they say the anthrax alarm has been initiated. And so Barrett and I both immediately, not only did we both write sins about the band Anthrax, but we also wrote specifically about the member of Anthrax, Scott Ian. Like we both mentioned him. And then Barrett even put over to the side in a note, "Oh my God," because he had them both on there. And we ended up going with the one I I was like, no, we definitely need to go with yours. But I was just like, when I heard the Anthrax alarm, I was like, oh, I can do something with this, with the band. And I'm not a huge fan of that band. Like thrash metal is not really my kind of rock, but like, I listened to Sound of White Noise like a lot of people my age, but that was about it. So I looked up some stuff about them, and then I found out that they had an album released exactly 4 years before this, and then they had an album released exactly 4 years after the movie. So I wrote after they said that in 2007, We've Come For You All was 4 years prior, and Worship Music was still 4 years out. Were we just concerned Scott Ian would bring hacky sack back? was the sin I wrote. But it was just so funny that we both just happened to do
hacky sack
Anthrax jokes, and then specifically that member. Now, mind you, if you know Anthrax, Scott Ian is kind of the guy that stands out in that band, but still, it was really weird. It was just, the whole thing was just weird, and it was funny, and that was really the only really research. I did do a little bit of messing around, like I was trying to figure out if some of the computer stuff held up. Like I looked up like what fire cells, if that was really a thing people were scared of and stuff, but I didn't really come across anything that interesting, and it was kind of about as boring as those scenes were in the movie.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what little research I did this past week.
Nice. I didn't do this research this past week. I did it 4.5 months ago for the Hustlers video that came out this week.
Yeah.
About buttholes?
Yes. I did a lot of butthole research on how well they can be covered up.
How do string bikinis work exactly?
A lot of research on Jennifer Lopez's physical trainer.
No, although it kind of is in that general area, there is a line, what if you don't have muscles to do that? Every girl has muscles to do that. And I was just struck by how dumb that response is. Every girl has muscles to do that. And so I think the sin was gender specific musculature or something like that I wrote. And so I did some research on female musculature versus male musculature and where it's different. And it was interesting stuff. The short answer is it's only different in the reproductive area. That is really the only place that it's significantly different to have different muscles. There are muscles around the uterus and the vagina and different things that men don't have. But other than that, the musculature is the same. And so unless she's using her vagina to hold on to the pole, the sin still stands. So, I've heard of Kegels, but that's a little far. So,
that's funny.
Maybe she was using her vagina.
It was the other part of
Actually, I do know. That's my keeping tabs.
Nice. The other part of that research that I did find interesting was the scientific reasons, hormonal reasons, that men and women develop differently and have different muscles that are more prominent or more apt to be the way they work. Why are men's muscles stronger? It has to do with the fiber and the way the twitch. There's some sort of twitch element to the muscles that men have generally because of hormones more of than women. So there's the science behind it is really kind of interesting.
The streaming websites in our body? What?
No, not that
weird.
Twitch. Not that Twitch, Danae. So, the idea of, so if you say men are stronger than women, well, that's a dumb thing to say because strength is such a broad concept, right? But you can specifically scientifically say that, muscles do different things because of the hormones, the biological hormones that come from the way the human body develops. So yeah, I found all that really interesting. So I thought I'd mention it. Danae, what about you?
I wanted to instantly know more about J-Lo's training for the epic 4-minute long strip pole.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were going to look up the 8-minute dialogue scene.
Oh, my favorite. That was my favorite. It's obviously really impressive. She did the entire thing on her own. There was no like body double or anything like that. They did have like one of her choreographer, her last name is Sapaki. I don't remember if I'm going to come across her first name because it's been a long time since I've looked into this, but she did the sequence as well with the cinematographer to kind of set up different shots and things like that. But she had to perform that like 6 or 7 times.
I'm surprised it was that few.
Yeah. I was impressed, but then as I'm reading about it, that's exhausting.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So she obviously did a great job, and everyone was incredibly impressed. She trained for quite a long time to pull it off. The goal was, J-Lo wanted it to be incredibly authentic. She wanted to learn it herself and perform it herself. She's been quoted as saying it was one of the hardest things she's ever done. And she had to train certain muscles to be able to have the core strength and the arm strength and the grip strength to go inverted on the pole, and also to hold herself with only her thighs. And then also perform that multiple times in a row in front of all of the crew in like very little clothing as a 50-year-old woman. Just incredible stuff. So I really enjoyed reading more about her training. She actually had a rotating pole installed in multiple locations where she was living. I think it was like maybe I'm gonna say New York and Miami, but that's off the top of my head. But just so that wherever she was, she still had time to train. And then when the shooting actually started, she had one installed where she could still work at it a couple hours every day, just to make sure she was prepared for that incredibly iconic moment. And yeah, so it was performed. Actually, it was filmed in the last week, I think, of their time frame, where the entire cast and crew had moved into a strip club in Long Island City for that final week of production. And that's where they retrofitted the stage with the rotating pole, which was put in there rather than the static poles to make the sequence in the film easier. And that's what she had been training on as well.
Nice.
So
I think you're probably right, though. I think her and A-Rod live in Miami because I think that's where he is. So
yeah, I think that sounds right. But super impressive.
You mentioned grip strength, and that brought back something else I learned in researching men and women muscles. Apparently, grip strength is the key component that is different in men and women for whatever reason. Like they said something along the lines of the top 10% grip strength in women is about the same as the bottom 10% grip strength in men for whatever reason. So yeah, that kind of brought that back, and I was like, oh, that's interesting because
there is a reason my husband opens the pickle jars.
It could be.
That's interesting, yeah, because like that is interesting though, because I've always wondered about that. My wife will have me open stuff, and I'm sitting there thinking like I'm not strong, but yeah, that's what it is though? It's just grip strength.
But you could be in the bottom 10% of grip strength, and yeah, exactly. All right, let's move on to the comment section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're just going to take a look at a comment from the week, something we wanted to highlight. I'm going to go ahead and start. I rediscovered the YouTube comments for our podcast. Our podcast is posted on YouTube, and it is in the Sincast YouTube channel in a Behind the Sins playlist. And I always forget to go there to see what people are kind of talking about.
I always forget it's on there too. I actually saw an ad. I saw an ad recently that pointed it out.
I see you.
Someone posted on 2 episodes ago. They posted yesterday. The Avatar discussion didn't age well 2 weeks after it, laughy faces. And that's what I think we were talking about that earlier in this show, because we had a discussion 2 weeks ago about, how excited that Avatar is going to be fine because the creators are, behind it. And as long as the creators are behind it, it's going to be okay. And then 2 weeks later, the creators are no longer behind it. So I wanted to give a shout out to Steven, who made that comment. And then Brandon, on last week's episode, had some information on the Zuko story that I thought was valuable. And Danae, you may know this and have heard since you read these comments and seen this, but I found it interesting because we were talking about the Zuko's mom and did she die and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And Brandon kind of went into it. It says, adjust glasses. Actually, the mother never died. She made a deal with Fire Lord Ozai and poisons the current Fire Lord so that Zuko's dad can take the throne in exchange for her banishment. So she leaves after telling Zuko how much she loves him. I thought she died for a long time. If you want more Avatar information and theories, the Super Carlin brothers on YouTube is starting to do a lot of research so that you don't have to. So you guys would probably love them, Aaron especially, because they also talk a lot of Pixar theories. So I wanted to give that shout out to Brandon for letting us know that because that is valuable information. What about you, Jonathan?
Mine's from Hustlers. I just thought this was really funny. Sasha L said the amount of cliche squad strolls, which I loved the squad strolls bonus round.
Boy, that went through a lot of versions too.
Well, I loved how you guys added the sins like as they were. I mean, it was just whoever came up with that or the combine of that.
Yeah,
was exciting.
That was Danae's specialty now is the bonus round. So yeah,
I am the queen of bonus.
Which she created, right? Or she thought she created.
That's right. She invented it again.
Sasha L said the amount of cliche squad strolls in this movie really gave it that CW high school series feel. Sorry, Lily, you almost escaped, almost. And of course, she's referring to Lily Reinhardt, who is one of the girls in the movie, one of the women in the movie, who plays Betty on Danae's favorite show, Riverdale. So
it's my favorite. It's such a wholesome show.
It is becoming one of my favorites. I'm not gonna lie, but go ahead.
Mine, I wanted to do like a little correction corner or whatever. I got called out for saying dragon turtle when it was a lion turtle. Listen, I play Dungeons and Dragons. It's a dragon turtle in that world. So
there are no dragons in the Avatar universe, are there?
I don't remember, but you're gonna have people comment now.
Oh,
so
that's true.
prepare.
That's true. Yeah, I bet there are.
I want to say
the Fire Nation has a dragon as their symbol.
I'm sure
over in the library, right? In the library episode, isn't there a dragon banner over the Fire Nation?
I don't remember.
Let us know in the comments.
I want to say I appreciate being corrected because I do enjoy learning. So I do not take your tweets as you being like, actually in a bad way. So thank you for helping me to see that.
Yeah, I don't want to be corrected. Leave me alone.
But my comment this week comes from our BTS Twitter, which is CinemaSins BTS. This one comes from Radio Georgios, who says, catching up on the latest episode of CinemaSins BTS, judging from the short glance that I got at the video for The Fugitive, the poster on the wall, and he's referring to the one that has all of the furniture might be showing Weiner Kaffeeshaus Mobil. I don't know if I said that correctly. By the historic
I'm going to guess you did.
Yeah, let's just say I did. The historic manufacturer Geber or Geber.
I think what you meant to say is the Bader Meinhof furniture company.
I was thinking the same thing.
and now that you've seen their furniture, you're going to see it everywhere.
And then lovingly, we were linked to a Wikipedia page for the Gebrüder Thonet page, which the Thonet brothers, a European furniture manufacturer, continues as a German company, and there's all this history about it that you can learn about their furniture. But they apparently also may have like art potentially. So anyways, if you were interested in that particular one, you can find it on our Twitter. I'm retweeting it so you can find it.
That is also, I believe, Aaron's 6th favorite Wikipedia page about furniture.
That's on his list.
Yeah. You got it. All right, let's move into Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wildest dream.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're just going to chat about something else from the world of pop culture that we've checked out recently. Danae, want to start?
I finished watching Netflix's She-Ra Princess of Power.
Man, you're just watching all the animated stuff on Netflix.
It's been something that I kind of forgot was there for a minute. And so then I'm like, oh yes, let me drink from the well. I don't know if I'm going to continue this streak though. I just realized I hadn't finished the series, and the 5th season, I think, is the final one. And so I just wanted to kind of see where they take the series.
It just came out though, right? Like, it hasn't been out very long, has it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one, Jonathan. But I love that you think I might have remembered that.
I haven't seen it. I just thought I remembered that information like popping up and something I looked at. But
I had a good time watching it. I think that it represents diversity and friendship and family and the complexities of that universe pretty well. And what I mean by complexities of that universe is, like, can I relate to somebody who's struggling with being possessed by a goddess warrior, She-Ra? No, but I want to. That'd be cool. So there's like this the fantasy element, obviously, as in with any show that deals with magic and heroic strengths and feats that none of us humans can really obtain. That's more in that like imagination part of the realm of things that I like to dream about. But I really did find myself relating with some of the interrelationship complexities a little bit. There's a toxic friendship. I'm going to call it a toxic friendship because that's genuinely what I perceived it as through most of the entire series. And of course, now that the final is over, there's some ribbon, some bows being tied, and some chapters being closed, and some happy endings and stories and things like that they get to in their own way. But there's this one particular back and forth toxic relationship that, man, it just reminds me of some of the toxic friendships that I've had, where I keep going back to a person because we have such a history together and I love her, but we're so very different and possibly not great for each other. But I keep reaching out to her as the years go on. Mm-hmm. Because I find myself like, I love her. She has a special place in my heart, even though we're very, very different people. And so watching She-Ra and Catra's back and forth love-hate kind of thing going on was genuinely hard for me at times, just as someone that was just kind of remembering my own trauma. So it was interesting to see where they took that particular story. I really would recommend this show, I think. There's some genuine laughter that kind of comes in it. I think that the She-Ra's, I'm going to call it a horse, but it's like a magical, unicorn, is hilarious and a great and welcome comic relief. It plays with growing up a little bit. Like, She-Ra actually matures, and so does Glimmer. So you kind of get to see them almost go from youth into young adult, which I kind of liked seeing. I thought that was really well done. Like when She-Ra transforms, that kind of cool montage of her like holding up her sword, and then she's transformed into this powerful warrior, that actually ends up maturing with the show as well. And there's some mystery to this world of Etheria. What is Etheria? What is the magic that it holds? What does it mean for the universe as a whole? And that's kind of a fun little mystery to follow. And they do a pretty good job of kind of like taking on that journey and answering those questions. And then they have some really good redemption storylines and story arcs too for people who are villains who end up, finding a way to be back into the fold, which I love those types of stories as well. So I think it's done really, really well. And I'm curious if you guys have watched it, Aaron and Jonathan, but also you, the listener.
I have not, no.
May 15th, by the way, was when the last episodes dropped.
Okay,
this year.
Cool. Like, I wonder if your daughter would like it. Like, I wonder if she would be interested in.
It's one that I've mentioned. She has not, to the best of my knowledge, unless she did it without me, she has not watched it. But I grew up on He-Man and She-Ra. Like, that was stuff I enjoyed as a kid. This sounds a lot more interesting than probably what I saw, because what I saw was commercials for toys, basically. But this sounds a little more complex. And then Kevin Smith has that He-Man show coming out pretty soon, which I'm looking forward to. So I might have to check this out.
As a parent of a young kid, I think they deal with a lot of issues really, really well. They did not sexualize this She-Ra character who's a kid. She's appropriately just doing her thing. Like it's she's wearing cute little shorts underneath her skirt, you know, and it's still really cool looking. It's really badass looking. And then like when she kind of begins to mature, it's nothing that's like, oh, now she's wearing sexy clothes. It's still really appropriate for her character. It's got magic and action and, you know, like they're all fighting for each other. And of course they do the thing where, you know, they split everybody up and there's like a little will they, won't they with a couple of the people. And that stuff is going on, but it's never really too much.
When they go to the strip club, is there nudity?
No, not in this one. I think that's going to be in He-Man. So anyway, I think I actually would recommend this one. And for those who have watched it and want to know what I think about the will they, won't they that we all are thinking about, I don't know if I'm okay with it. I'll say that. Okay, that's all I have to say.
What are we thinking about?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what we were thinking about. Are you talking about She-Ra and He-Man?
No.
Will they or won't they?
Hey, no, I'm talking to the people who've seen it.
Oh,
and know
okay.
what I'm talking about.
Is He-Man on the show at all?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
That makes a lot more sense.
Because they would do adventures like together, like they would have like their She-Ra and He-Man movies, like TV movies and stuff. But like typically on the shows, if I remember correctly, they were separate. Always.
Like I kind of want to do spoiler
like
stuff and tell you more of my opinions about it, but I'm not going to in this place. Like I don't know if maybe I should talk about it in an outtake or another show entirely. If you really want to know my opinions on stuff specifically in spoiler, let us know and maybe we can do something extra like a bonusy thing.
Of course. Jonathan, what do you got?
I will say this is not my official thing, but I will say, because when I talked about Star Trek Lower Decks last week, I had only seen the first episode because that's all that's available. I've now seen the second episode, which is actually better than the first one. So
nice.
I am definitely on board with this series.
That's good news.
I saw your tweet. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's really funny and it's really interesting, and it's very different than what you've seen in Star Trek, but it also still feels very Star Trek. Jeremy Simser actually commented on that tweet with something along those lines that I think said it perfectly. But no, I'm going to talk about a podcast that like I've known about this podcast for a while. It's been around for a few years. I've known about it for a while, but I just hadn't started listening to it until recently. And it's called My Marvelous Year. Emphasis on the Marvel and Marvelous, because what it is these two guys, one is a comic book fan, veteran, been reading comic books like a long time. One is a comic book newbie. They are starting with the 1962 Fantastic Four 1, and then they were going year by year through Marvel, and they're hitting the essentials. The essential issues for each year. And right now they're doing two-parters. They're doing the first half and then the second half. I feel like I've looked further on and like, because right now I think they're like in the 80s, like the late 80s. And I think maybe some of those have more than two parts to them. But it's really cool. They're using the Marvel Comics. The complete Marvel Comics reading order is a thing that's online that I don't know how many people are involved in it, but I know it was started up with no money. You can donate to it to help them keep going, but basically it's these people that are trying to come up with this like complete chronological reading order for various things in the Marvel universe. And so that's what they're using. And I've been using that as well, because if you have that Marvel Unlimited plan, they have all the comics on there so you can kind of read stuff in order. So I've started reading the comics in order, and then I've started listening to the podcast to kind of go along with it. And I'd started doing this a while back. I'd started reading, and then I kind of got off it, but I've gotten back to it because I'm paying for this service, so I feel like I should be using it. So now I've gotten to where I'll read one or two comics a day typically, which is, you know, like 30 minutes of my day or whatever. But anyway, so that's all it is. I mean, there's not much to it other than that, but like if you like comics, if you like Marvel comics, it's just really cool to hear like the, you know, starting at the beginning and then going forward. I'm really big into things like that. I love reading things in order, and I love like, you know, like, or going back and watching a TV show in order, whatever, however that is, whatever that's called. Like that's just kind of how my mind works. So it's really cool to hear somebody else doing that, and like I can read along and know what they're talking about and all that kind of fun stuff. But even if you're not reading and you don't want to subscribe to Marvel Unlimited or go buy a bunch of comics, I think it's still going to be really interesting to you if you're a fan of these comic books and characters and just even the Marvel movies. This will give you some, you know, insight into where these characters started. One thing I have discovered, at least early on though, that I find interesting, I would never really read the Avengers comics. I read all the like the solo titles of a lot of those characters, but I never read the Avengers, and I'm starting to learn that maybe it's because it's not a very good comic book. At least early on, it's not very good, which is really interesting because that's like probably the biggest movie like state like franchise right now, right? Is the Avengers, but the movies are quite a bit more interesting than the comic books so far, I have to admit. But it's still been cool going back. I never had read Fantastic Four before. That's a really fun comic that I didn't know it was this fun. And then Spider-Man and X-Men I've been getting into, and I love Daredevil, and just I don't know, it's been a blast. But the podcast is called My Marvelous Year, and I'm sure you can find it on any of your favorite podcast things that you use.
If you listen to podcasts, and I have a sneaking suspicion you do.
Do you like the podcast?
People are going to think we're getting paid by CBS All Access because we've mentioned Lower Decks. I talked about the Big Brother live feeds. The challenge. We talked about
Picard.
The challenge is now on CBS All Access, like 20 seasons of the challenge. And I'm doing another CBS All Access show. Actually, season 2 has been out for a while, but I didn't get a chance yet to talk about the Twilight Zone season 2 here.
I have not watched it yet, so I'm really curious what you have to say.
So the reason I feel like I want to talk about this is because I know, maybe not here, but in elsewhere public places, I have stated how much I did not like season 1 of the Twilight Zone. It felt very forced to me, very preachy, and I get that the Twilight Zone, part of the appeal of the original was how message-based it was, but it seemed like the stories were great, and then the message was also good and interesting. And the first season just felt just very paint by numbers and forced, and anyhow. I'm happy to report I liked season 2 quite a bit more, and it is... it feels much less pedantic to me than season 1, and maybe my expectations were just lowered, but I also really love the cast. They've got, I'm just going to read some names just so you kind of know, but you may remember Marina Baccarin from Firefly. She's in an episode. Ethan Embry, who I really like, is in an episode. Jenna Elfman, who I think I've actually talked about how much I like her on this show before, but she's not doing much, but she's in an episode of this. Tony Hale, Jillian Jacobs, Joel McHale, Billy Porter, Jimmy Simpson is in a great episode, and I love his character. Topher Grace is in an episode. Thomas Lennon, Gretchen Mol, Journey Smollett Bell, Paul F. Tompkins. Just a lot of like those kind of mid-range names of people that I love, though, and I generally love when they show up and stuff. And so this second season, I think, is really stacked. And the stories, I think, are a lot better, a lot more interesting, a lot more thought-provoking in a good way than the first season was. So I wanted to mention that because I've kind of ripped on the first season a little bit here and there, that I actually do like season 2 quite a bit more.
And rightfully so. No, that first season was terrible, was borderline terrible. And it's definitely the worst version of the Twilight Zone that I've ever seen, because they redid it in the 80s, and they also did it in the 2000s for a season in the 2000s. But I think both of those versions were way better than that first season. But I've heard a lot of good things about this second season, so I'm definitely going to check it out. And I love Jordan Peele, so I mean, I'm really interested in it. But no, you're right. It was very much message driven versus story driven, which never works.
Yeah. It put the preaching first and the entertainment second. And
I mean, Rod Serling was definitely had opinions and had messages in his stuff. But yeah, like you said, the story was there. And yeah, it just like there was that one episode where like the kid becomes president, Jacob Tremblay becomes president.
Oh, so bad. Yeah.
Oh God, it's just it was
so
hard
on
to
the
get
nose.
through.
It's just so on the nose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, maybe my expectations were lowered. Whatever the case may be, I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts.
I'll watch it at some point. Yeah, it's definitely on my list. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but
what?
Yeah, I know.
It's strange. I mean, they can't even make new content, and there's still lots of content that I don't have time to watch. It's incredible.
There's a lot of good stuff on CBS All Access, though. There's we're not promoting. I swear to God, we're not paid by them. But there's that show. Is it called? I think it's called Confession. Is a really, really interesting take on the procedural police procedural.
Yeah,
it's really cool. I don't know. Yeah, there's and then like you said, they have Survivor, and they have all the Star Trek stuff on there.
Yep.
In better quality than I think Netflix has it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, who'd have thunk? Well, there you go. That's going to wrap it up for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. You can hang out with us on Twitter at CinemaSins BTS, also personally on Twitter. Send us a message, tweet at us, whatever. I'm at Aaron Dicer. She is at Danae Says.
DENEESAYS.
And he is at Sam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Danae Hughes, and myself, we will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts@cinemasins.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
Welcome to what I thought was just going to be the Aaron Show.
I couldn't stop.
I think you should adapt that to be your normal laugh. I think you should just go with that one. It's very good.
That'd be really hard to change my laugh at this point in life, right?
Oh, yeah. I forget for most people, it's just a natural thing that happens, laughing.
Oh, yeah. I forget that most people don't realize yours is always fake.
Every time I laugh, it comes from a real place, and I've learned how to let that real place be a natural reaction, but it's definitely something I've crafted and invented.
It's definitely all bullshit.
You've said you can tell a difference sometimes.
Sometimes, but you know what? As time has gone on, I've literally just sort of forgotten.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is cool. It's cool that like even your like BF, you know, like although if your other friends listen to this, it may be like, no, I'm his BF.
I think you mean BFF.
BFF is friends forever. BF
Right.
is just best friend.
Do you have something to tell me?
Well,
Are you drinking iodine? What is happening right now?
so I found out yesterday that the sun is really good for you because apparently it gives you vitamin D or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Did you listen to that podcast I told you about?
No. Is that part of a podcast?
Yeah. Radiolab did a whole podcast on how vitamin D may be the answer to coronavirus. So,
Holy shit.
yeah.
Well, anyway, I was at my really amazing new chiropractor that I'm excited to tell you about. And she's like, yeah, you should be good to go. It looks like you're covered and everything, you know, and you're getting outside at least once a day for some sunshine, probably, right? And Justin was there and he goes, he's like, are you counting when she gets in her car to go get a coffee or?
Can you tell where my bike ride was? This is my heart rate, by the way.
The tsunami spike?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm really triggered by graphs that have sudden spikes these days.
Yes, that's right. That's a good point. That's a very fair point.
Hey, check out this graph with a massive spike. It's just my heart rate, so it's cool.
Yeah, when I bike, apparently, I hit around 150, 160 beats a minute.
Wait. When does your monitor go off and zap you?
Now it's at 195.
Okay.
It was at 180 until we realized I get there when I exercise sometimes and probably shouldn't go off while I'm exercising.
No.
So we moved it up to 195. But yeah, but yes. A but yes, a but no, but yes.
How's that going for you?
I'm just over here talking to myself, guys. You feel free to keep getting ready for the show. I'll just be over here saying, but yes.
I just decided to eat something just to get a little snack in me before we start the show because we're recording in my lunch snack window.
Oh, you didn't eat beforehand?
Yeah, I ate lunch beforehand.
Yeah, me too.
I did, but I definitely could have done a better job of getting food in me, but it's hard to eat when I'm not hungry. Like, and be like, oh, I'm going to go
That's
ahead
usually
and eat.
hard.
Because I know.
Is it though?
Yeah.
I wish it was hard to eat when I'm not hungry.
Well, then you are hungry.
Jonathan?
Well, Aaron's special.
I'm hungry all the time. Yeah.
You know how the Hulk is always angry?
That's right. That's my secret. I'm always hungry.
I did something today. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I took the protective plastic thing off of the top of my phone. So now with my note, I can write on the glass for the first time since I got the phone.
It's probably a lot more responsive.
You don't do screen protectors?
Well, I have this whole time, but it's been long enough that it's sort of peeling up and then all the dust is getting in the peely parts.
I thought you just meant like there was plastic on the phone that you never took off. Like, you know, how you get stuff and it's got plastic on it.
No, but that reminds me.
I didn't know you meant an actual screen protector. Yeah, no, I'm terrified to not use a screen protector. So
that reminds me of the I forget what it's called, but the foldable phone that Samsung tried out for the first time last year. And it was designed in such a way that it felt like there was a screen protector that came on it, and people peeled it off and then realized it was an actual part of the phone, and they destroyed their phone. Like it was one of those things where like it hangs out over the edge a little bit, and so it looks like you can kind of pick at it. And so people picked at it and then pulled it off, and it was like the top layer of the screen. So they totally had to like redesign. The other huge mess up.
How would they not catch that?
Listen, that foldable phone thing is just a series of craziness, because the other thing was when you would unfold it, there was a gap that would happen between the screen and the thing, and dust and dirt would get in there. Yeah. So that when you would totally open it up, that dust and dirt would then be behind the screen and like break it or pop it up or whatever. What? So they've had to figure it. They just announced the second version of it, and apparently they've dealt with those two issues. So good job.
I mean, they got through those phones that would blow up on people. I mean, they somehow
the Note
dodged.
7, right?
Yeah. Yeah. They somehow dodged. And I was working in wireless when that was going down.
I don't think I've had a Note since the 5. I think the Note 5 was my last Note.
I was going to get the Note 7, but then when they were doing all the recalls, I think that's when I decided to go Pixel. I think that was one of the deciding factors to switch from the Note to a Pixel.
Yeah, you had a Pixel before I did. So was that like generation 1?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it went Pixel back to Note, and now I have another decision to make. I'm at that next platform. But I was just talking about the Note 7 battery blow up issue when I was playing D&D with my friends over the weekend, because we were one of them held up their phone, so I was able to see it, and I asked, "Oh, did you get a new phone?" And he said that he had gone to the lake and walked into the lake with his phone and then tried to fix it. Like he tried to air it out and you see if it was going to recover, but that it was so hot you couldn't touch it. And so immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, so you probably like you put it down and walked away because did you think it was about to blow up or something? And they looked at me like they'd never heard that before. And so I'm over here thinking it was an extremely dangerous situation where the battery was about to explode. And they're talking about it like, no, we just kept touching it until it cooled down. And yeah, you probably could have put some, like a marshmallow on there and like melted a marshmallow. I'm like, what? You guys, there's a battery that could blow up if it gets too hot.
Your phone should not be able to create s'mores. This is not one of the functions it was designed with.
I went plant shopping today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this little greenhouse in the town I used to live in, real small town. That since we have more room in this new house, I'm like, I think we need to have some plants around here, but I've not known what to purchase. And I mistakenly, or maybe it's a good mistake, happy accident, I was Googling houseplants because I don't want to get something small. There's like quite a large area in the living room that I'm like, oh man, a big leafy plant would look so cool right there. So I looked up big leafy plant, and then every Instagram ad for the last several weeks are all plant stores, where you can buy plants online. So now I'm flooded with cool plants and cool pots and cool, ways to hang them and all this stuff. So it's got me thinking, yeah, this is a great idea. And I almost got a plant from one of the companies until it said that it was part of a monthly subscription. And I was like, whoa. I don't think I can handle a monthly plant. That's a lot.
I would think that would be perfect for you, Danae. You kill the one and then you get another one the next month. It's like, you just, Like,
that's so true, right? But I really think those succulents, I'm talking about? Like those cool little desert looking.
Yeah.
They're not cactus, but they're these cool succulents. They're really cool. I'm like, man, that'd be kind of neat. And they have a whole bunch of those. But after asking a lot of questions, even though they don't need a lot of water, they need a lot of sun. And so I don't know my house well enough to know where to put them. And so proud of myself because I said no to about 4 plant options that I just wasn't quite sure if I'm ready for them yet. But
I'm sorry, you don't know your house well enough to know where to put them? Do you not know how to identify a window? Like, what is... It seems like one of the first things you might want to recognize about your home is where the windows are.
Oh, Aaron.
Yes.
Off topic, but before we disconnect,
surprise.
I want to tell you about my chiropractor.
Okay. I have a friend who's a comedian chiropractor.
Oh no.
He's always cracking jokes. So.
Oh no. I knew that was coming.
Oh, puns are fun, guys. I mean, just puns are fun.
I forgot to tell you guys that the gardener at the greenhouse was a large man in overalls with chew in his lip.
It sounds like somebody that works at a greenhouse in Missouri. Go ahead.
I was not expecting that at all. It was so interesting to walk around all the greenhouse areas with him, and he's just like, that's a mother-in-law's tongue.
Did he carry a spittoon?
He was just spitting on the open ground and like the gravel of the greenhouse.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've been growing that one for years. She stays here. This one's name is, what was the name of that plant?
Petunia. This is my daisy named Petunia, and this is my Petunia named Daisy.
He's got this like trucker hat on and everything. He's like, yeah, that's Seymour. It's that plant. What was the name of that plant too?
Seymour.
Yeah, Seymour is the one from...
I meant the class.
Well, no, Seymour's not the plant. Seymour is the person.
Oh, okay.
Seymour is Rick Moranis or whoever's
I thought
playing
Seymour
him
was the
in
plant.
Little
What's
Shop
the
of Horrors.
plant's name?
Audrey 2.
Audrey. That's right.
Audrey 2.
I learned about this plant. It's called the mother of 1,000 babies. No, yeah, the mother of thousands. The mother of thousands.
Should it be 10,000 as we learned last week?
So he's like standing beside me and he's like, I got to show this thing to you. It super looks like Seymour.
Audrey
although
2,
it's,
you mean?
Are you saying it looks like the plant Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Audrey.
That's Audrey 2.
Well, he's calling it Seymour. Well, I'll tell you that he named this plant Seymour. And do you see all these things on the edges?
Mm-hmm.
All those are its babies.
It's amazing.
And if you brush up against it, all the babies fall off and they start growing more babies. And the whole thing, all the edges of every leaf is covered in all the babies.
That's some great reproductive.
That is straight up Little Shop of Horrors, and so they're going to take over starting in Missouri, and that's great.
I found this plant over in the corner, and it was it looked like an aloe vera plant, but it's not. It's called like mother-in-law tongue or something, and it's just these long, like really razor sharp looking, I guess because mother-in-laws aren't nice, I don't know, like real long tongue like plant. And then at the base of it was one of those 1,000 babies plants growing, and I was looking at it and I accidentally brushed my arm on it, and a whole bunch of like the little things start falling off. I was like, oh crap, and they fell down onto this entire plant section below it where they're growing all these new plants, and I had no idea where they fell. So then I go inside, talk to the guy. He's coming back out and telling me about the plants. He's like, yeah, anywhere they fall, they start growing. And I just kind of glanced down to all the... I'm like, oh my God. In just a few weeks, they're going to look down and every single one of these starter flower growing are just going to have all of these babies everywhere.
So plants are taking over Missouri and then the rest of the United States. I was out of breath yesterday doing something. It wasn't anything like too taxing, but I'm just lazy. So my wife thought I was mad. She's like, "Why are you being an ass?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "Well, you were huffing." I was like, "I was breathing." Like,
it's
I was
maybe
out
time.
of breath.
It's maybe time to bring the counselor back in when you're upset about your partner breathing. Would you just stop breathing, Jonathan? At our house, whenever I am the least bit upset about anything, it's like strange times. Like I'm pretty easygoing. I don't get all that upset about stuff. And so it could be, something technology sometimes will irk me and I'll get upset, or, Danae see me upset at stuff. Like, there are levels of my anger, but anytime I am frustrated, my wife can tell. And immediately it's like, she's like, what did I do? Why are you mad? What, are you mad at me? She'll ask me, are you mad at me? I'm like, no, I'm mad, but I promise I'm not like, and even if it's involving something, like about her or a situation that she was involved in or whatever, I'm like, there has to be a distinction between emotional reaction and like targeted anger. I'm not targeting any anger at you. I'm just having a reaction to a situation where I'm frustrated, So
I rode with you to a restaurant when you were visiting one time. I don't know if you remember this, and I think you got irritated because you couldn't find a place. You couldn't figure out where to park. But I had never, it was just weird. It was like all of a sudden, like Aaron's like jolly composure turned to something that I can only describe as frightening to me because I had never seen it before. And I was just like, what is going on? And I was like, your wife, did I do something? Did I say
that's it.
weird?
When you're this laid back, everybody thinks like, if you're...
And then I figured out quickly you were just mad because you even said something like, I hate driving around these places and I can't find a place to park. And then you started just sounding like my father-in-law. So,
that is, I am definitely, I'm going to be somebody's father-in-law soon, I'm sure. And there
for like 2 seconds though, I was like, oh no, like I got evil Aaron. Where did this come from?
He's in there. Hey, speaking of flowers, and then we'll get started, but when my wife and I went on our 25th anniversary trip, we saw this line of flowers in front of this home. And it was like this perfect line of long-stemmed, and then they have like little pink top and...
Naked ladies.
Yes, naked ladies. You know of naked ladies. I had never...
They're all over the place right now.
So it must be the season for them. Like
we should just take that soundbite out, by the way. And
right now
nobody knows it's about
for
plants.
Naked ladies? Like there's just a lot of naked ladies right now, right?
In everyone's yard, there's naked ladies everywhere.
Yeah.
Totally exposed.
I thought they were beautiful, and like the arrangement was kind of cool. I had never seen anything like it before in my life. I should say this. I'd never been aware of seeing anything like it in my life. And it was one of those moments where as soon as we saw them and then identified them, we see them everywhere now. And it's one of those cool human brain things where you think something doesn't exist and then all of a sudden it exists everywhere. And I'm sure there's a term for this, but
it's the time of year though, right? It's just this is just when they're, I don't know. We don't really have them. I don't know if we have them really here as much.
We don't have them in Michigan. I just know in our mind, both my wife and I, in our mind, we had never seen them ever before. Not just this year or in the last couple of years. Like it was a completely new thing to us. And we have lived in Missouri for 10 years now. So, wow, a decade. We've lived here a decade now. So
this just in, Aaron has never seen a naked lady.
I saw my first naked lady, guys. It's amazing.
Yay.
Oh my goodness.
And it was in a non-pervy way.
So my wife was like, when she found out what they were called, she was like, they're called naked ladies. I was like, cool. Do you want some? I'll Google naked ladies right now. And she thought that was really funny.
No, don't do that. What you're talking about has happened to me. We have some kind of flowering hardy bush in the backyard. And like I've been cutting the flowers off of it, not entirely sure if I'm pruning it correctly because I've never seen one of these before. And now that I'm looking for them, I've seen them in other people's yards. The one that's in our yard is probably 3 feet by 3 feet. You know, it's like it's taking up a pretty good amount of space. The one that I see down the street from us, I'm not kidding, is 20 feet tall.
Wow.
It's huge.
Was it planted? Is it something you plant though, or is it just something that grows there?
I don't know, but it's crazy because it is. I mean, God, yeah, I think it's that tall. It's hard to tell as you're driving by, but it is impressively tall. It is it's extreme. It's probably 10 foot. This whole bush is probably like 10 foot wide and just juts up into the sky. And then it has some of the same exact flowers on part of it.
The naked ladies we saw didn't have any bushes. But I think naked ladies with bushes would be beautiful too. Listen, you could put bushes with naked ladies and that would be great, but
oh my God.
It is called the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon. It has a name. It is called Bader-Meinhof.
What, you guys realizing that there's new
naked
flowers?
Ladies? Yeah, that phenomenon when it's a type of frequency illusion. It's that phenomenon where you finally learn something and then it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically you just weren't ever paying attention to them, and now you're
and now you
your
are.
focus
Now you're aware.
Yeah.
And also that means you don't have to make up a new term for that, Aaron.
That's right. Somebody already did it. Although Bader-Meinhof, I mean, come on. You could have gone with
someone's
something
name.
better.
That sounds familiar. That's somebody we learned about in our past because that sounds very familiar. Or it's like been in a movie.
Well, now you'll see it everywhere. Let's see. Regulate my speed on the intro, Aaron. Don't do it too slow. Don't do it too fast. I'm going to be second guessing myself.
God, I fucking hate Shark Week.
Sorry, Danae.
God. Oh, sorry.